Welcome to the regular meeting of the Villa Park City Council. I hereby call the meeting to order. Jared, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Pauly?
Here.
Councilman Reese?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli?
Here.
Mayor Barnett?
Present. Had to think about that one. Okay. Well, why don't we, Pat, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Please join me as we salute the best, most wonderful flag in the world and think of all the young men and women around the world that are protecting our freedoms. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if everybody'd silence their cell phones so we don't have to deal with that. We welcome you to this meeting and encourage your participation. If you want to speak on an item on the agenda, please approach the podium over here at the time the item is being considered. After I recognize you, state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments. Speakers will typically be limited to a period of 3 minutes in most cases. If you wish to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, please do so during the period that's listed for oral communications. Our first presentation is an update from the Orange County Human Relations Commission. Will Sean Thomas please step to the podium? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Hildebrand, Chief Gunzel, and community leaders, and the public. I'm here tonight to report on some of the work of our nonprofit organization, the Orange County Human Relations. I want to tell you a little bit about what we've done over the past year in Villa Park and how Villa Park has participated with us. Our whole mission is to build a community by fostering respect, resolving conflict, and pursuing equality. I just want to say that tonight my talk's going to be very short. I don't want to upstage the other guy who's giving a speech tonight, so I'm sure mine will be much shorter than his. As our demographics continue to change, some cities struggled this year with conflicts that grew into profane, abusive, and or hateful speeches at public comment periods of the council meetings or public demonstrations, and even in some cities, riots, where civility was often the first victim. Orange County Human Relations, in partnership with the chairman of the Board of Supervisors and the Association of California Cities, conducted a forum and developed practical guidelines for managing civility in public forums. And I brought a copy of that report for members of the council who would like to review it. This forum took place recently, and the participants were members of prestigious law firms. We had several constitutional attorneys, city attorneys, the chief of police of one of our major cities, and with our partnership with cities, we've maintained the capacity to serve as an asset in healing in these tense times, and we've saved cities lots of money and lots of dollars in the process. Many of our services are county-wide, but I'd like to share some of the data about our services last year in Villa Park. Somebody said to me that our organization is organized to make people love each other, and maybe that's true, but that's not really all that we do. We do a lot of other things. I was just talking to the chief, and he mentioned that he participated in a mediation, that we have a mediation program to help people who might not be able to resolve conflict, get together, and we will mediate the dispute for them. We mediated 13 cases in Villa Park, and we had one family mediation. And all of those 14 cases, one of the parties at least, and maybe both, were citizens of Villa Park. We don't charge anything for our services. It's on a sliding scale, so if they can afford to pay, the litigants do. If they can't, then obviously they don't. Many people just make a contribution to Orange County Human Relations. In collaboration with the Villa Park Police on hate crimes and individuals or community groups on hate incidents, and hate incidents are different from hate crimes. Hate incidents are situations where someone feels that some hateful things were done against them, but they don't rise to the level of being a crime, and we do get involved in that, try to mediate that. But there was one documented hate crime in Villa Park in 2012. And I let the chief know about that, and he, just to let him know, and I don't know any of the details, so I can't discuss that with you, even if I did. 20 Villa Park students, and this is one of my favorite programs. We have a program called Bridges, where we are in many of the schools in Orange County. 20 of the Villa Park students participated in our day-long Walk in My Shoes symposium at the University of California, Fullerton, learning about respect, tolerance, and making a difference in their school or community. If you could see these kids, they're incredible. They're absolutely wonderful, and they're learning a lot. They're learning how to live together. They're learning how not to bully and do many of the things that are creating some problems in our schools. We helped build a sense of community with Villa Park residents and staff through the hate crime victim support. We have a victim support program that's very ongoing and very inclusive. We provide, as I say, all kinds of services for the residents of Villa Park. We help not just Villa Park, but all of the cities in Orange County, residents to understand what many African Americans and Sheiks and Muslims and other people that face on a daily basis. And we do this through a program we call our listening sessions, where we get together with people and we just listen, and we all listen to each other and listen to about how we feel about what's going on in our communities, and how some of these minority groups feel that maybe they need a little help in getting people to understand who they are and what they are. We help cities to rebuild police immigrant community relations in the aftermath of sometimes violent confrontations. Orange County cities collaborate to address the need for permanent supportive housing for the mentally ill, and multi-service homeless shelters to reduce the number of people living on our streets. Our executive director, Rusty Kennedy, very, very much involved in with Supervisor Nelson in trying to get a homeless shelter built here in Orange County. We help city councils to maintain civility in public meetings while balancing the free speech rights of individuals with the desire to keep hate-free zones for diverse members of the public. While cities may not have major conflicts every year, when a crisis does develop, we're there to help. And we are very, very proud to be in collaboration with the city of Villa Park. And I do want to say this, and this is kind of self-serving, but we're having a gala on May 8th at the Grove in Anaheim. You are all invited to be there. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity. This year, our theme is going to be the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Movement, the signing of the Civil Rights Bill by President Johnson. And one of the great things is that so many people here in Orange County helped to get the civil rights movement going. We sometimes think we're way out here in California, this little county, well, big county, but we sometimes don't realize what an impact we had. The Menendez case that was one of the first to be brought to segregate schools in the United States, and California in particular, but in the United States, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was way before Dr. King even thought about marching. So We'd like you to be there. Please do. If there's any way that we can help Villa Park or the citizens of Villa Park, please, we're there to mediate our mediation program. What a terrific program it is if you're having a problem. And what's wonderful about that mediation program, and I think the chief will verify this, that you know, a lot of us, me included, if we have a problem and it gets to the point where we might need some intervention, we can pick up a phone and call our attorneys. A lot of people can't do that, and we're there to fill that gap and help those folks. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sean. It's hard to imagine a more worthy endeavor than what you're doing. So
Well,
thanks for all the time and
thank
effort I know you're putting in it, and the rest of the group.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we've got the foundation report. Who's here from the foundation? Anybody? Nobody from the Villa Park Foundation? Wow. Okay.
I can give my report now if you'd like.
Is there, I guess the question, is there anything particular going on that we should know about?
Well, they had 2 events this month. They had a health event from St. Joseph's Hospital, and I believe Deborah attended. Am I
Yes, I
correct?
did.
And you can speak a little bit about that since I did not attend
Sure.
that particular one. And then they also had one from the Council of Aging, and it was very nice. They came in and gave a lot of materials to our residents regarding aging parents, Alzheimer's disease, where to go, talking about Medicare, places that our residents could just go so that people can explain things to them. And that was very well received. They're on now until they've got a membership drive going on. I think people who live in the city of Villa Park should have already received the brochure asking for donations to be a member for the foundation for 2014. And if you do receive that, it would be very kind of you to donate what you think you can. The foundation would like it, and all the money that they do receive does go back to the city in some form or another, whether it's the school or beautification or in assisting individuals who need some help. And Deborah, if you want to talk about the St. Joseph's event, that'd be great.
Thank you. I hadn't attended any of their daytime events, so I thought I would go to this one. It was on January 14th, and it was actually a nutrition information event. And after Christmas, I thought I might need it, and there were about 30 other women who felt the same way. It was pretty well attended. I thought they would just like zap the fat off of us, so I was a little disappointed. But they gave us a lot of information about what to eat, like kale, not cookies, you know, things like that, and then gave us some nice exercises that we could do and a little walk meter. But it was a really great event. I think they do a nice job with that sort of thing. There was definitely interest in it, so I enjoyed it.
And if I can just add one final note when it comes to the foundation, if there's any residents out there who would like to join the foundation, they are in need of board of directors. They're in need of a treasurer as of the last meeting. So if there's anyone out there who has some time and interest, if you'd go to their website and download a form and turn it in, that'd be wonderful, and someone will be contacting you.
That it? Okay. All right, well, I guess we're up with the Orange County Fire Authority. Do we have a battalion chief report?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members, city staff, and public, both here in the chamber and at home. My name is Ron Roberts. I'm one of your battalion chiefs serving the city of Villa Park. 3 items for you tonight, if I may. The first one is your firefighters here in Villa Park have been somewhat active, fairly average month as far as most of their incidents they've been going on. But one of the things that I found interesting as I was gathering the information for tonight was that your firefighters have responded to an unseasonable amount of water emergencies, drownings, near drownings, and I'd just like to remind, if I could, the audience, both here and at home, please keep an eye on your pools. These type of incidents can happen very quickly and happen across all age groups. So please, if you would, be mindful of that. The second item, of course, we're enjoying the wonderful weather, I believe, but we are holding our breath as firefighters. These red flag warnings that we've been having with the strong winds put us on alert, and so we would ask for help, again, from the public, both here and at home. Please keep an eye out. Don't don't hesitate to call 911. You smell smoke, see smoke, we'll gladly come out and look at it for you. And then lastly, on a somber note, I'm not sure if the council's aware, but we did lose an employee January 20th. Excuse me, one of our fire apparatus engineers was found unconscious in the fire station, and he subsequently passed. So we are planning a memorial service on March 4th for Engineer Hennessy, and working with his family to make sure that all their needs are being met. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you certainly have our condolences for the loss of that man.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've got our matters not otherwise on, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped you. I'm sorry, Lieutenant Gunzel, I flipped the page too soon.
Mayor, City Council. I want to first start with, before I give year-end stats and what Jared and I have been working on over the last several weeks, December's stats. For last month, to December 2013, we had 11 Part 1 crimes. And I just want to go over a couple of those just to put things into context. For residential burglaries, someone did break a door on a residence, gained entry, but there was no loss. That's still considered a burglary. Another one where a home was under construction, being remodeled. Someone came in and took the wood flooring that hadn't been installed yet and a ceiling fan. 2 vehicle burglaries. One of them was an unlocked car parked in a garage. Loss of a laptop, a cell phone, and an iPad. If I can't stress enough, please lock your cars and do not leave valuables inside the car. There's nothing that we can do to prevent a crime like that. And then another unlocked vehicle where there was no loss. And then there were 7 petty theft incidents. Another unlocked vehicle that was on a driveway. Lost was a flashlight, sunglasses, and currency. Again, leaving money in the car. Someone took a bike from Villa Park High School. Someone took some property of a landscaper's vehicle while he was working. An unattended phone taken from the high school. Unattended purse taken from a residential party. And statues taken from a front yard. So that was December. For all of 2013, our total crimes for Part 1 crimes was 102. Against last year's total for 2012 was 105. So we're trending the right way. What Jared and I have been working on some things over the past weeks, what I would like to do, and part of it is for Jared to build a database, but what I would be able to do for him is present the mileage on the patrol car and the Villa Park car. And I know that the mileage was forwarded to the council, and it says on the notes up here, but this is just for the Villa Park car. So the SRO car and the other star cars that are in the city were not included in these totals. And 2 different times the Villa Park car was out of service. One, it was involved in an accident. The deputy was driving on the street and ran into the mirror of a car, which damaged the side. Deputy's fault damaged the side of the Villa Park car. So it went in for body work, and took a couple days. Came back out, and 2 days later, one of the deputies in our parking lot backed into it. So it went out again. So keeping that in mind, all these numbers aren't completely accurate as far as these are the driving miles, but there are also times where that car's not out. And if you'd like for the quarter, I can go over our Part 1 response times. Monthly, I will send them to Jared for his database or his spreadsheet, but I can go over them quarterly because there's not that many here. For instance, September, there was no priority 1 calls in Villa Park. So that's easy. October, and what we do is we look at 5 minutes and anything above and look at those. Anything below is considered acceptable. For October, we had 2 priority 1 responses. We had an average of 6 minutes because one of them was a cell phone someone dialed 911 on a cell phone. When that happens and there's no one on the other line, you can hear talking. The dispatch has to use longitude and latitude to figure out where that call is coming from. That takes time. Once they get the call, the tower at Villa Park High School, deputies patrol checking the high school. That doesn't put them on the call. So it extended it to that call for 7 minutes of unknown trouble. Turned out not being anything. So the average for October was 6 minutes. The average for November was 3 minutes and 39 seconds. Both calls were within acceptable ranges. And for December, there was 2 calls. Average response time on those 2 calls was 3 minutes and 53 seconds. One of them was a 9-minute response, but that was, we have explanation codes that we go over, each one that's over 5 minutes. And this one, Orange County Fire was on scene and requested us. So it comes out on the computer as a priority 1, but if fire's there, we don't respond code 3 to it because we're not required to. So, unless they request us code 3. So that's for the quarter. Like I said, monthly, I'll be providing Jarrett with the monthly stats, with the mileage on the blue dot as we call it, as well as the total calls for service, not just part 1 crimes, for his spreadsheet. Any questions for me?
Thanks. I think that'll be very helpful.
I actually do have one question. Not on the information you provided. 3 minutes, I'd like to hear 3.5 minutes. That's good. My question has to do with the status of the lockbox for the keys in an event of emergency at the schools. What is the status on that?
We are finally moving forward on that. Jared signed the letter last week. Because of Christmas break, Jeff Rollins, our SRO, did a threat assessment on the high school, and they're waiting for that to get completed. Everything's done. We're just waiting for delivery of the boxes. And once that happens, we'll have keys, and this whole process will finally be put to bed. So, yeah, we're finally making progress.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the crossing guards. At the last council meeting, which was about 6 weeks ago, we requested that the crossing guard be moved from near Villa Park Elementary School down to the high school, and it's been in excess of 6 weeks, and I'd like to hear why it takes 6 weeks to have a crossing guard move that we pay for.
Yeah, I think it was more than what I expected and more than what Jared expected. It has to go before the Board of Supervisors for whatever reason. And it has to be a study done to find out if this one's no longer needed and done by the city, which I could verify it's already been done, and then do another study at the new intersection to verify it needs to be there, and then go propose it to the Board of Supervisors. I just found that out this week from talking to the county, and I forwarded it to Jarrett, and I'm having to check because I can't believe that's the process for one crossing guard.
Yeah, I mean, was a study done when we put her there to begin with? That's very.
Been there for a long time.
Jared
so
said the
who
last
knows?
one was
But
a
that's
phone-
our tax
a phone
dollars
call.
hard at work.
Wow.
But we're paying for it, and that's if the county wants to pay for the crossing guard, then I think it's fine. They can put the crossing guard wherever they want, and they conduct all the studies they choose.
My
But
response
when
to
we're
Jarrett
paying
was
for it,
the bureaucracy that was my exact response.
okay.
I guess then as a follow-up, in case this happens again, then do we remove the crossing guard the day we don't want her and let them do the study? So we don't have to pay for the 6 weeks in between, because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary to have a crossing guard that only crosses 6 people every single day.
I agree,
So,
and that's not something I'm just sitting on. There is a process and the people I have to speak to, and I said this all just came to light like last week.
Yeah.
That this is the process, and I can't believe that's the process.
Well, thank you for updating us on that, and that's something that we need to look into also. That's big. Thank you.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Put your mic down.
Okay. Sorry about skipping you there.
It was a good report too.
Our government in action. Now it's time for the matters not otherwise on the calendar. So if anybody wants to address a matter within the jurisdiction of the city council, come on up to the podium and give us your name and address and fire away for a couple of minutes.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Criddle. I live off of 17846 Helena Circle, and I'm speaking on behalf of Rosalind Gray, my grandmother. Last council meeting we were here, she brought up the issue about the closers off of Fitch and Ranch, and we wanted to know, could council reconsider the closures on it? We also started a petition. We have 23 residents that signed it that are against the closures. And we also wanted to know what was the evacuation procedures, because last time when she came to the council meeting, no one could clearly give us an evacuation procedure. Besides the fact of walking on to basically the street behind me where the dead end is, and to stand at the park. But if there's a fire, why would we stand at the park? And also we wanted to know the issue about the key, because at the last meeting there was something about residents weren't getting a key, but when we were getting the petition signatures, they were saying otherwise, that you could request a key. And also we wanted to know if, when you guys decided to do the closures, was the seniors and the handicap considered on that behalf? So.
Well, let me take a shot at that. To start with, we addressed that to some extent at the last meeting, and it appeared questionable that there was a real problem because of the distance of that fence from the housing, and all the open space was there. But that said, I think our city manager got into that a little bit. Jared, you got any further comments on that?
Yeah, you know, we sent out police and fire, and they did an investigation and looked at the matter, and it's not going to affect the 911 response times. If there's an evacuation, you would do as you always did and walk out the, front entrance of the street. Again, I'm happy to talk to you about this afterwards, but the oral communication section isn't the best part of the agenda for dialogue. If you want to leave your contact info, I'll give you a call tomorrow and we can discuss a little bit more, but this isn't the proper venue to engage in discussion right now.
Can I respond to that? My mother has also sent you several emails. You haven't yet to respond to her. The only person that she has been in contact with is Mr. Mill. He has responded in a diligent manner about that. And also, when I brought up the issue about the seniors and handicap, why would a handicapped person walk all the way to the end of the street? A lot of the people that live in Villa Park are elder people. There are younger families moving into their neighborhood, but at the end of the day, you can't hop over the fence if you're in a wheelchair. So that was a major issue. So that isn't plausible right there. So, I don't know if an email, or we just want that at least one entrance or a key for people to get in and out, because that it doesn't seem very safe. Even if the fire department did studies and stuff like that, it's not safe, and a lot of residents are very unhappy about that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That seat was wet. My name is Jean Fishley. I live at 10706 Albany Circle, Villa Park. This is also pertained to Fitch and Ranch Road. I wasn't here when they had the discussion about that. I would have been here then. I think we were on vacation. I came home and I got a note in the mail saying that it had already happened. They had a council meeting. We go for long periods of time. I have been a member of the old Traffic Safety Committee. I was on it for 2 years, quite a few years ago, so I'm very familiar with things that need to be done to close streets up. I and quite a few of my neighbors feel like we're starting to live in a medieval city because we keep putting walls up and fences. And it's all through Villa Park. It's not just here. It's been going on for quite a few years. A lot of you people have come in newer and don't know about this. But we're surrounded by a wall. And I really resent it because I can't walk where I want to walk anymore. I have to walk out on Wanda. There are some things that could be done other than putting up walls. If people would lock their doors, they probably wouldn't have people coming through them. I know several calls that have gotten where people have walked into their houses, knock on the door, nobody answers, they stand back and wait, and somebody comes in. I've heard people knock on my door and then stand back and wait, and they wiggle the doorknob and everything to see if somebody's home or the door was open. If people would lock their doors, if people would get that little form, fill it out at City Hall that says do not solicit at my house, I'm on that list. I call the police when they come around. I get a description of the people. And you know what? Twice I have watched the police, the sheriff, take away people in handcuffs. There's several years ago sometimes, but there are people, they do check, they do come by. The other day I watched the sheriff last week come by, take a guy, they talked to him for 10-15 minutes, they drove away, the guy gives the peace sign to the sheriffs, they go, and he goes on his happy little way up the street again. So was I supposed to call the sheriff again? I don't know. I mean, that one was an interesting little problem. I have walked up and down Fitchin. I've sent to Mr. Hildebrand my photos. I'm sorry, a lot of photos. There were 2 breaches in the fence that now people have gone through. The wall, there's at least 2 spots where the wall where people have come over the top and they've knocked off the top cap of it. They're destroying this fence. And there's trails. You can see trails where down at the far end, down by Collins, where people have come over the fence. The kids are coming over the fence. The fences are not stopping people. At the end of Fitchin, also, where the wrought iron fence was, there's also somebody who lives on Collins and backs up. Their fence is leaning like a 45-degree angle. The fence, there's a great big gap at the bottom, so anybody with a little bit of ingenuity can go through. But it'd take work, and it's not convenient for people in wheelchairs or etc. My suggestions are, and thank you to you're not the sheriff, I'm sorry, the fire department. The sheriff's department, I go on vacation, my neighbors have seen the sheriff there at all hours of the night. They do patrol beautifully. And I mean, they come on not just once or twice a day sometimes, I mean, they just keep making their rounds. And it's a good priority, and we haven't had any problems. Also on Fitchin Ranch Road, the sheriff may not be aware of unless you've talked to him about the little pot bush over there. Yeah, I found the little green pharmacy, little vials. It says cannabis on it. It's legal and all this stuff. It's not legal if you're hiding behind a bush and between a bush and a wall using it, and you're, 15, 16 years old. So I would suggest that maybe in the evenings, on the weekends especially, that the sheriff do go up and down Fitchin Ranch Road, because the kids do hang out there. And we do have a lot of parking. We have short cul-de-sacs. So sometimes when we have extra company, like a wedding or party, we do like to park on Fitchin Ranch Road. So thank you. Just wanted to give my voice. And I don't know who put that wet seat there, but it's like I did something.
Thank you,
I
Jean.
shouldn't have done.
Anybody else for non-agendized items? Nope. Okay, well, I guess our first agenda item is a conditional use permit for the relocation and construction of a 65-foot cell tower in the center. Jennifer, have you got a report on that?
I do. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item before you is a conditional use permit. That is a request to remove our existing telecommunications facility that is right across the street here from City Hall. It stands at 45 feet tall today, and we're going to relocate that pole and install a new telecommunications facility. The request is for 65 feet in height. The reason for the change in height is to accommodate co-location. What that means for folks in the audience is that rather than having 2 separate poles with 2 separate carriers on one facility, we can house those 2 carriers, so it eliminates the need for a second pole. It does require additional height so that they get the distance between the 2 carriers to allow not to have interference and things of that nature, but it does eliminate the need for an additional pole. The facility itself will be moved in terms of the telecommunication tower. However, the equipment that will go with the tower will stay in the building where it sits today, so we won't have additional facilities outside in the parking lot or anything else. The pole will be in the Bank of America parking lot, and it is proposed to be stealth, very much like the tree that you see out there today, although newer and upgraded, which we're excited about. The proposal includes 3 options for the city to consider. One is for a pine-looking tree, the other is a palm-looking tree, and the third is for a eucalyptus. We met with the Community Development Committee and we provided to them all of the different options that were available. The recommendation made by CDC and staff for you to consider this evening is for the eucalyptus option. New to us today, we did receive information from the property management that they are not in favor of the eucalyptus and that they would only support a monopine or the pine tree option being used for stealthing that telecommunications facility. Staff and the CDC felt strongly that with the direction that the town center is heading, with more of a Mediterranean look and feel, that pine trees are probably not the direction that we're going in terms of landscaping. If you'll recall back to the Chase landscaping options that were being provided, we did ask them to remove any pine trees and go with other trees that might resemble eucalyptus, olive trees, and things of that nature, broad-leafed trees. So we'd like to see something like a telecommunications facility that's going to be here for quite some time to reflect the future of where the center is going. However, tonight that would be up to the full council to consider, but CDC and staff were recommending this evening the eucalyptus. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have the applicant here in the audience, and that would conclude staff's report this evening.
I have a question, Jennifer, or actually a clarification so everybody understands. When the new pole is put on Bank of America's property, correct? Do they get a rent payment from AT&T? Do they get paid money for putting that pole on their land?
Someone does.
Somebody does.
We are not involved in the lease agreement as the city, so this is a private agreement between either the property owner and AT&T or the land leaser and AT&T, and we're not privy to all of those details, so we're not aware of how much they're getting, but typically in the case of a telecommunications facility, there is some kind of land lease and payment agreement.
The reason I bring that up is we're in the process of trying to figure out in the city of removing the pine trees that have been here for 50 years because they've destroyed the ground, and we're trying to update the trees and update the center. So I find it odd that the property management wants to keep the pine trees when we are, as a city, moving away from that. I think we talked about in our meeting, we would have preferred an olive tree, but that wasn't a choice. So the closest thing we got was a eucalyptus tree, which seems quite silly because it looks like a win-win for everybody, for the city. So I just wanted to make that clarification, let everybody know that we're moving away from the pine trees because they've done a lot of damage after 50 years, and trying to update our city just a little bit. Update with a 65-foot pole.
Sure.
Anybody else? Brad?
I'm really glad to see this. We've had big holes in our city with AT&T coverage and other carriers that I believe will be located on this pole. So I think it's a plus for the city, and I'm definitely in favor of the eucalyptus-looking one. It looks far better than the other ones.
Anybody else?
Well, I will say something about this, although this is time to ask questions of staff. Unless I am mistaken, there have been really no complaints about this particular cell tower.
There have been none, and in staff's analysis in the report this evening, what we really wanted to convey to the council and to the public is this is really replacing the tree, or the pole that we have today, the tree. And it's just simply moving it actually a little bit further away from our residential properties. So we don't anticipate any new impacts or anything else. And again, although it is getting taller, we do think that the improvement in technology and even stealthing capability that we see with telecommunications facilities today, as opposed to when the original pole was installed, will be a vast improvement in the center.
Well, I will just say that this is now the third round of my experience dealing with putting a cell tower or improving the cell coverage in our city. And this is the first peaceful one that I've experienced. And so for that reason alone, I'm thrilled to death. I can't believe that it didn't happen sooner. Perhaps it was useful to have government step out and allow private property owners and private companies to work together to make a solution that serves the community and their customers.
And we didn't need a Board of Supervisors resolution either. Is there anybody in the public would like to speak to this? Anyone like to address the issue? No? Okay. Well,
I do have a question. I understand that the applicant is here. I forgot your first name already.
My name is Jermaine Taylor, Jermaine, last name Taylor, Taylor, and I am representing AT&T on this project.
Okay, very good. And you had shared with me before the meeting that the property owners were opposed to the eucalyptus.
Correct.
Do we have any notice of that in writing or any concern that they have?
Yeah, I received a phone call this afternoon, maybe around 2 or 3 o'clock.
And they made you aware of their druthers, which was?
There were several other pine trees in the parking lot, 5, 6, or 7 of them, and they didn't want to go away from the lift that currently exists there.
Guess I have to ask, why was the eucalyptus even a choice?
The eucalyptus was a choice because, as the planning department requested, that we provide them multiple options to choose from besides just the monopine. There were a few other options that we were not able to provide based on the limitation of the space out there. So the only thing that we were able to do was come up with a few other stealth options for trees. But based on the existing pine trees in the parking lot, the property owner wanted to stay with the monopine, and himself and B of A was against the monoeucalyptus.
Are you going to open public
yeah,
hearing?
We should have known that when we talked about this earlier, so.
yeah, I've got a question on this too. Who's who else is going to get access? So it'll be an AT&T tower.
Yes.
Who else will have access, and who makes that decision, and how does that work?
Well, what will happen if you guys approve the tower at the additional height, when another carrier comes to you guys and they're having bad service and they want to put up a tower, you guys say there's an existing one outside.
Go talk to AT&T.
Go talk to AT&T.
So then you would, if we approve it, you basically.
So then we would work out some kind of agreement with the proposed carrier if it works, because as she mentioned, we'll need additional height because we have to keep a certain limitation for interference and things like that. So based on the next carrier that comes, I'm pretty sure it won't be an issue. That's why we wanted to raise the height to 65. So, I mean, if T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, or whoever other wireless carrier comes in here and what they want to, bad service in the area, you say, hey, we have a 65 one outside.
So do we essentially have assurance from AT&T that they will be able to access the tower if we approve it?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, and would it just be one more carrier? Could 2 go on? Could Sprint and Verizon be on? And very, very honestly, I'm just looking at it from a community perspective because there's all kinds of phones in the community.
Okay.
Coverage is not particularly good in a lot of spots.
Okay.
And it would be nice to have reasonable access so that some, at least the primary carriers would get some decent coverage. How many more carriers could get on that tower?
It's all based on how high you'll let us go.
And
How would you like to go to match the current pine trees? They're a lot taller than the simulation you have presented us.
If you guys allow us to go to 75, we don't have a problem with that. I mean, you got to look at it as if the higher you go, the more carriers you'll be able to add. If we're stuck down here and carriers are looking for height, you'll only be able to get 1 or 2 because the next one that comes, they're going to say, we're not high enough. We can't extend it. You can't do this. So, it all's based on how high you'll let us go. There's another option as well that you guys may, be open to for the future. If you let us go with the 65-foot monopine, we might be able to design it to where it's extendable, meaning that, if another carrier comes and they co-locate at the bottom, then another carrier comes and they say it's too low, Well, the tower's built for extension, so we'll be able to put another 10-foot extension to make it 75 instead of 65, but that's totally up to you.
'Cause I'm just thinking, AT&T is a big carrier, Verizon's a huge carrier, Sprint, I guess, is pretty big, and then after that, it tapers off, doesn't it?
T-Mobiles and Metros and things like that.
Right, but the Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T, the big three, basically.
I wouldn't say they're the big three, but they're the big players on the block.
Okay, I'm just thinking about getting the most exposure we can to the community,
Yeah,
so that most people get their phones
The most
taken.
exposure you'll get is the highest you'll let the tower go. Like I say, with 65, you'll at least get 2 carriers. You can make it extendable for another 10 feet for 75, just in case another carrier comes, because you have to think about the strip mall right next door. So the lower you go, it's going to affect.
And if we, let's say we approved it for 75 now versus we approve it and you get an extension, is it going to be the same look, or if you start with a 75 footer, is it better looking than a 65 footer with an extension?
Well, it can be designed both ways. I mean, the branches and things are addable. You can add the branches to the tower. So like I say, we can do it 65 right now, and with an option to go 10 feet for the future, or if you want us to go 75 right now, we can look into that as well.
I don't believe we can legally do that because of what's before us tonight and what has been noticed to the public.
I'm not making a motion to take it to 75, but I'd like to understand what's going on so that if we make a decision, we know where we're going. Similar to the fence when we talked about putting some flexibility so it could open. I just want to understand if I'm going to be asked to take a vote on it. In other words, if it's a 65-foot tree, am I going to get some silly-looking 10-foot pole coming out of the top with something on it? You know, and if we're really if we want to cover the community, and we really do need 3 carriers, and there's a big difference between a 65-foot tree with a prong on the top, or starting with a tree from ground up that's designed at 75 to handle the 3, then I'd like to know that for purposes of voting and accommodating more people within the community. But I think what you just told me is it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the best design that we have is the way it's set right now, 65. I mean, we don't want to go all the way up there, so I think 65 is a nice height. If 2 additional carriers come and we need 10 more feet, it can be designed with the tower manufacturer. It's no problem.
How tall are the current pine trees adjacent to this proposed site?
I don't have that exact height.
Looks like they're about 80 or so.
They're probably around the same
80,
height,
85.
10, 15 feet, give or take.
According to the simulation you have here. I think we should do this one time. That's what I think. So,
Mr. Mayor,
I think we need some study on this.
I think our city attorney wants to weigh in on that.
if I may, when the council considers a conditional use permit, it's within your authority to alter the use that's going to be permitted and what's approved. And the notice, although it specifies 65 feet, it's permissible to change the height since effectively you've provided notice that the height is increasing originally in the first instance from 45 feet. So it would be appropriate to consider at this time whether you want to increase that height from 65 feet to 75 feet.
So we need to make a motion to add to this? Is that how
Yeah,
this?
you can revise the CUP that's currently before you right now if that's what you'd like to do.
We could approve a 75-foot tree with a notice that we're seeking to approve a 65-foot tree?
Correct. Yeah, it would be appropriate to approve a 75-foot tree tonight if that's what.
We could say up to 75, then we would not be holding them to go to 75. They can do it if they work it out with the property owners and everyone else that you've already sealed a deal with.
Correct.
So we could say up to 75. That gives them the option to remain at 65 if that's what the other players in this want. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I'd like to not have to visit it over and over again too.
Are we comfortable the way this is approved, that in fact the other carriers do have access?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a private business deal.
Anybody got a motion, or you want?
No, we need to have a public hearing.
I'm sorry.
You need to open up the public hearing, Mr. Mayor.
I thought I did that, but okay.
No.
I thought I did that before. If any members of the public would like to address this issue? I apologize. I honestly thought I had done that before,
Opened the discussion for council to ask questions of staff.
and then I asked any member of the public, I thought, and then we got Verizon out here. But all right, we got them now.
Hey, everybody. Bob Jordan, and I live on Center, 9851. I've got a little bit of background in the RF industry, and I just wanted to make the point that I want to give you credit for trying to look forward. Deborah, you made a comment that you've already been through this 3 times, and this is almost the successful effort. So
I pray it is.
Yeah, so
It's not done yet.
it makes sense to approve it for something higher, but they do have to do something in order to accommodate that. Besides with their landlord and everything else, they've got to build a foundation that will support that height too. So if from a construction standpoint, it makes more sense to them and everybody from a cost standpoint to do it one time and not come back and do an add-on. And an add-on is always going to be funky. I don't like the monopines or the monopoles and eucalyptus. I think it looks like a mechanical tree that doesn't look like it's, you know, it's stealthy, but I'm good with it. I just wanted to make that point that we absolutely got to build a foundation that will support that higher load. And I did want to ask the question, Verizon's not in this already? Okay. That's it.
Mike Carrier as well. Bob, your comment on the trees, I thought was interesting. If you got a suggestion on the tree, you don't think these look?
I don't want to derail the whole thing. I mean, if I were proposing it, I would have proposed something that looked more like a building structure kind of a thing that blended with the architecture that you guys are trying to go with. It's more expensive for the carrier, but it's, like I said, it's a preference. I don't like the way the trees look because they don't look like trees to me. They just look like a mess. And from a guy who works on them, I don't like working on them either. But you know, so, but you guys are already down a road with that, and if everybody's pretty happy with a tree concept, then, you know, then I'm not going to try and obstruct that.
Be a tall structure. If it were anything other than a tree, it'd stick out pretty much. But
So in that regard, what is the best course of action here? I mean, because you'll have to go back to your property owner, correct, Jermaine? And because I think Bob brought up a good point about the foundation.
Yes, and I wanted to touch on his comments that he had. His first comment was in regards to the foundation. This is a brand new tower that's being built. It's being designed by tower engineers and manufacturers. That's something that we definitely are going to have them take into consideration. Part of the foundation design is that we have to provide the tower manufacturer with the total overall height of the tower, where we plan on the height on where we plan on taking this tower. We have to provide them with the antenna loads and things like that. So the proper engineering for the foundation and everything will be taken into effect. The second comment in regards to a design structure or something like that that'll match the architectural part of the building. We looked at that, we explored that. We're very limited on space there. As you know, in the parking lot is all that we have to work with. In addition, the equipment is existing inside of one of the office suites over there. That's something that we don't want to touch. If we touch the equipment and take it out of something that's interior already, it'll become visible. We don't want that. We know you guys don't want that. So as far as an architectural structure, we tried, we explored it, and we're very limited on space. And the property owner knows that. I believe Jared is aware of that. So, I mean, the best thing that we were able to come up at this point with was another stealth tree.
I guess my point was about if we approve this, how much extra work do you have to do?
Well,
to make it to be able to accommodate 75 or 80 feet or whatever.
Well, based on the fact that we were waiting on the actual approval before we moved forward with completing construction drawings and everything, we can just reach out to the manufacturer and let him know to design it to go up to a 75-foot height top of steel. And because when we submit for the building department, we're going to have to turn in structural calculations and all that stuff anyway. So we can just have the tower manufacturer design it to be at 65 extendable with another 10-foot extension to 75. That's not a problem.
Okay. Jared, do you have any?
This is a decision for the city council.
I wish we would have had that information at the CDC. We wouldn't be here right now doing this. We would have probably gone ahead and done something a little more forward-looking. So we didn't know that at the time. So okay.
Well,
go ahead.
why it shows up here?
Here's the thing. Let's deal with the tree for a second.
Okay.
Okay? For me, there are already pine trees there. The reason I'm about taking pine trees out is because they are destroying things and they're dropping needles. But this is not going to drop needles, and it's not going to have root spread because it's not real. So, I don't think we need to worry about that part of it. The property owners, they care about what's going on in this town center probably more than you and I do because, well, their bottom line depends on running it well. I'm thrilled to death that we have a decision before us, a solution to a long-term existing problem. I feel if we just go ahead and approve the CUP with the amendment that says to install a new wireless telecommunications facility up to 65 feet or 75 feet. That gives them the option to say it's 65 if they can't work things out, but it also gives them the option to move forward, and we don't have to visit this again, and let the private property owners and the private industry deal with it, and let them solve the problem for us. And I think they actually have. If you'd have sat through the last 2 go-arounds of this, and Brad's been there, it was a living hell. So, this is not, let's be happy, let's take this thing and run.
Well, I disagree with the tree issue. I think that we're working very hard to update our community within the boundaries that we have. I mean, we don't own the property, I understand that, but I believe it's evident that the property owners are not doing anything to update our center, and we're trying to bring business and trying to change what it looks like. If you look outside and look at the existing tower and what that pine tree looks like right now, it's the old Christmas tree that's been put in and out of the box. I mean, it just does not hold up very well. I believe that putting it up to 75 feet, that's great. If they want to do it, they can. But considering that we've been in the last year moving towards making the town center look a little more modern, a little more Mediterranean, we're taking that look along our trails that we should stick with the best we have, which is a eucalyptus tree.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
What if the council says up to 75, but we want eucalyptus? Who overrides that? In other words, I know the property owners want pine. I'm feeling we might want eucalyptus. Where do we stand on that? Who wins that battle?
The city council may consider aesthetic impacts when deciding how to and whether to allow these sorts of cell towers. And so if you're effectively conditioning the approval of this upon that aesthetic concern, that is something that is within the council's discretion.
So it would go back to the property owner saying council wants eucalyptus, and then they would have the choice to say forget it or let's go with it.
Right.
Hate to do that to them, but I agree with Deanna. I mean, I think it looks a lot better myself. I like the 75, but I think we're headed toward the eucalyptus, and if we make that decision, I mean, I don't know, it looks a lot better, for sure.
I probably should ask, is there anybody else in the audience that wants to address the issue? Okay, well, that's what I figured. Well, I don't know. Frankly, I don't really know what either one of these looks like. This picture really doesn't do much for me. It's just kind of a black, it's a shadow, and one's the shape of a eucalyptus, the other shape of a pine tree. I don't know, Bob, if you've got, if we could, well, let me ask, you can both go up there for it, it's fine. I'd just like to know, has anybody actually seen these, the pine and the eucalyptus, the real? I've seen these, but it doesn't really show me, this is like a shadow.
No, we'll compare the pine.
Mr. Mills points out to go to page 3 so you can see it a little bit better, what they look like. You can see the old one that we have is old, and it's old technology, and it's horrible. But what we have there, all through there, are pine trees. So it wouldn't be unusual to see another pine tree, even if it's fake. I don't know. I just feel like we can cause enough pain as a government entity to private property owners, and when we don't have to, why would we? That's all.
Deborah, can I just make one suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
I think you guys are doing it, giving a little give back with going to the 75 feet too. I mean, I'm not sure what the leasing scenario is, but there's more opportunity for revenue there. So
Sure.
if you say I want the eucalyptus, but I'm giving you 75 feet, to some extent, there's a trade there. The only other issue would be then radio cabinet space, and you were saying so they've got they're in a room, not a structure.
Yeah, we're in an existing room in the office across the street.
And there's no ground space for an outdoor enclosure or anything like that, right?
No, any additional carrier will need to take care of their own ground space the same way we did with the property owner.
So you guys, you're gonna have that on your plate in the scenario that you get somebody else, even if at 65 feet, if you could have another carrier and you still got the ground space challenge. So you're gonna have to make some concession with that. So if you could say that you're going to make that concession in the future, then you've solved those problems all in advance. But as a landowner, I would look at that.
So did you suggest that it was easier to extend the pine than the eucalyptus? Was that what you said?
No, it's as long as it's like you said, as long as and I wasn't suggesting they weren't going to design it properly. I just wanted you guys to understand that there was that additional expense to the people who are paying for it. That they're going to have to build a bigger foundation, and they're going to have to the initial tree, even if it was planned to extend, is going to be a little more girthy. There's going to be more to it than just starting with that 65-footer with no plan for growth. So they have to have that all planned out and expect it and design it properly. And I know they're going to do that. I just want you guys to understand there was that extra step and there's cost to them.
The thing I didn't understand is that where AT&T's maintenance, its box is housed right now, could not accommodate any additional carriers?
Our equipment
Yes.
area?
Yes.
No, we cannot.
So this is going to come back to us no matter what.
Well, if a carrier decided to co-locate on that pole, they're going to have to come to you guys
That's what I
anyway,
said.
because they're
That's
going to
what I
have
mean.
to get the permit from you guys to allow them to go up there. So regardless of what, they're going to have to come back to you. But the thing is this, the structure's already existing.
Right.
And everything's already taken care of. I mean, if we could have did a different design or, bell tower, clock tower, anything like that, trust me, we explored those options, but it's kind of tight. You need the footing, you need you need a lot of things, so.
And so we have to think about what's happening back there, because if you had two more carriers on, then you'd have two more equipment boxes, whatever you want to call those things, I don't know what you call
Well,
it.
it all depends on what equipment the proposed carrier is going to use. So.
Or the carrier, another carrier could put a pole at the high school or on another location. It doesn't need to go on the B of A
Good luck
property.
with that.
But that is an option, and things do change.
That's true.
I mean, that B of A parking lot back there, I mean, we're not talking about the most beautiful place in the city. It's
That's why this is perfect. This is actually perfect. It's completely unobtrusive. We're taking an ugly one down. We're putting another pine tree up in the middle of 4 existing pine trees. And it's going to solve a coverage problem that's been going on ever since I can remember. So I don't know why we're still beating this up. I think we should just let it go and let the companies that deal with this professionally and the private property owners get to work.
If I can make notice, we didn't have anybody come to the community development meeting and this was noticed. There wasn't anyone.
You mean a resident?
There wasn't a resident, there wasn't the applicant, there wasn't the landowners, there wasn't the property
Nothing.
development company. So I just want to make note of it, that we were not notified, and having the city get a phone call at 2 o'clock saying they don't like the eucalyptus, or the eucalyptus tree.
Jared, would it be appropriate to table this and have more study and bring it back? I think that we can't make a decision properly right now with the information we have. I think we need to bring it back myself, but
Well,
I sympathize with your opinion, Deborah, on getting this done, but all the data wasn't here.
Okay. I'll go with you if you don't feel. Anytime a colleague does not feel comfortable making a decision with the existing information, I think it's incumbent upon us to respect one another in that, and to continue an item until we do feel comfortable.
Greg,
I'm confused what we're
curious.
missing.
Yeah, that's
I
what-
don't
that's what
think
I
we're
was gonna
missing
ask.
anything either,
That's
but
what
Greg
I'm
doesn't
curious
feel
about.
this way.
No, because we
whatever
didn't know the options about the trees and all about the height differential.
Well,
Now we
They're
do.
not asking for 75. It's Rick, excuse me, Mayor Barnett suggesting that we muddy the waters
No,
by
I
adding
I
another 10
suggested it.
feet.
I actually
Did you
muddied.
suggest it?
Yes, I
All right,
did.
somebody's muddied the waters. I had one
both did
phone
it.
call and one email when this thing came out on the agenda, which was like hugely different than what we've experienced with other discussions concerning cell towers. And as soon as it was explained to them what was happening, they were like fine with it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I was thrilled, and I think we should be thrilled. My recommendation would be to go ahead and adopt this resolution exactly as written without the modification and move forward. So if we continue this, it's just going to stall it for another month, and we're just blocking things for no reason other than we want a eucalyptus tree, and it's their private property.
I'd like to make a motion, if I can, to adopt the CUP, removing the 45-foot high monopine wireless communication facility and installing up to a 75-foot telecommunication facility that has the look of a eucalyptus tree.
I can't support doing that.
I'll second the motion.
Can't support doing that.
Do we have any more comment? Do we have any more discussion on this before we run it to the vote? If nobody else does, I actually have a brief comment, but if somebody else does, I'll defer.
Are you going to be okay with voting at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote.
Mr. Mayor?
My thought is this. I don't see a big problem with authorizing the 75. They can build it. If it never happens, it doesn't happen. That's up to them. I personally don't care whether it's the eucalyptus or the pine. I've looked at them here, and, you know, the eucalyptus is nice, kind of looks a little more out of place in some ways to me. I understand the argument that there's problems with the other pine trees, but as Councilwoman Polly pointed out, this one won't have that problem because it's just a structure. So I don't see that as a big problem. I'm not sure that I see enough difference here to really care which way it goes. I really can't even make my mind up what makes more sense. And since there's a private property right involved, I don't have enough interest to try and overcome their preference. That's my comments, and so you all make whatever motion you like, and I'll just have to figure out what I'm going to do. So
And
if we've
just
got
for
nothing more, I guess we'll.
So
I didn't change anything. Just
And
made
for the
my
record,
comment.
if you're looking for a more co-locatable structure, the monopine is the more co-locatable structure than the eucalyptus, because the eucalyptus, as you see from those pictures, you're going to have all those branches and everything sticking out. It's going to be so hard to fit another carrier on there if they want to go on there based on the height.
It looks more natural.
Yeah, it
That's
does.
why it's not a Christmas tree where you just put the pines in.
But the thing is that
Otherwise, we would have the poles that we have down Villa Park Road that the gas company put up. How tall are those? That are steel. I mean, there isn't, they're
35 feet?
yeah. I mean, those are, we didn't get a choice on those.
Is this a clear situation? Because again, I can't tell from these pictures. And maybe Bob knows, but
Well, like I
I mean,
said,
is there really a clear distinction in
Color
terms of
pictures
quality
show-
between the
Look
two?
at the two
No.
color pictures.
It's a
Rick.
it's
clear
just that we have. It's
situation.
just
Get
that
the
we
pine
haven't
and the
really.
uke on the
I haven't
colors.
seen either one of them.
That's the best.
Because the way that the new technology is with the stealthing, it's way better than even the old pine stealthing.
Right, that's how
And
it
I
went.
don't know what the eucalyptus one. Although I have seen certainly I've seen plenty of palm tree stealths. Because you can actually see, the antenna sticking out from the sides of a palm tree. So I'm
Look
glad
at the
nobody
two
wants
color
that.
ones. Open those up.
Can I make
Go
a
to page
substitute
one.
motion?
No,
Is
not
that
those.
appropriate?
Yes.
I would like to
The
make a
pine compared to the
substitute
uke
motion.
on that page.
Right, but then,
Are you still looking?
yeah, I'm looking at it. I mean, I'm just
Page
trying
one
to,
against page one of the other ones.
yeah, I mean, frankly, I sort of
my
like
gosh,
the
this is-
eucalyptus, but
this should have been a slam dunk.
as he's pointed out, we don't have the height capability. It limits the functionality, and the main way we want this is to cover the city with cell coverage,
Yeah.
is my concern.
Exactly.
So I'm not really sure that the difference in the look in the tree, to me, when you put the when you reduce the functionality and you, Illinois, are resident who owns the property.
Exactly.
I'm just not sure that, to me, that there's enough here to start that war. I think I'd rather have the cell phone coverage. I'm not looking for a gorgeous tree. We all know it's gonna be a fake, and it's not gonna look probably as good as a regular tree. So I'm just not sure it's worth going to war on this to get a lesser.
Bottom line is I want to do something tonight, so I'll cave on the uke.
Great.
Just to get the darn thing done.
All right, then
but I
I'm going to
would
make a
prefer the uke.
go on.
Can we please close the public hearing before?
Close the public hearing.
We'll close the public hearing. No one else has any
We don't have the
comments?
support, yeah, no.
Great.
Okay, we'll close.
I would like to make a substitute motion that we adopt resolution number 2014-3266, consideration of conditional use permit number 0751, a request to remove an existing 45-foot high monopine wireless communications facility and install up to a 75-foot high wireless telecommunications facility in a new location at 17859 Santiago Boulevard.
Second.
Do we have to specify pine there?
No, we don't have to say anything.
That works? Okay, we have a second?
Does that void the CUP
We have a
at
first,
all?
no.
Okay.
First, second.
Hold on, I have a question. You said you don't have to specify pine, which means we don't have to even specify tree, so it could just be a metal pole.
But
Based on
in the
based on the way it's written, it could be a metal pole.
Are the conditions,
Am I
conditions do not specify that it has to be a tree? Under
Yes.
the conditions, we're passing the resolution.
Under the conditions of approval, special condition number 1 is the approval of the CUP are subject to the city manager's approval of final design plans. You can give me direction. We can do pine or eucalyptus, but I would like to specify one or the other, else they can come back with
All
a
right, then just
football
let's
or-
modify, special condition 1 to say, subject to the city manager's approval
Pine or eucalyptus.
of a pine or eucalyptus tree. Stealthing, or just tree stealthing. Can't we just say that?
So actually, in special condition number 2, it specifies that
Oh,
the
thank
wireless
you.
communication tower and all ancillary features shall be fully camouflaged within the eucalyptus feature.
Can we just say within
So-
the pine feature then?
You can say camouflage within the feature and leave that to the discretion of the city manager.
Okay, fine. How about just say tree stealthing feature?
Tree stealthing feature.
And then you guys figure out what kind of tree you want, but not the palm tree.
We will not do a palm tree. That I promise you.
Do we understand what the motion is?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Yes, Mr. Mills has seconded the motion.
Jared, you want to call that up?
The vote is to, I'll re-clarify it, approve resolution 2014-3266, approving conditional use permit 0751, removing the existing monopine and installing up to a 75-foot tree stealth feature. Councilman Pauly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes.
I'd like to make one comment, if I could. I'm very disappointed that the company that brought this did not, I don't think it was you, Jermaine, but I'm very disappointed we didn't get all this information ahead of time. We spent a considerable amount of time before this meeting and now at this meeting discussing these features, thinking that this eucalyptus was a feature that was possible, and then it turns out to be not. So I think we need to be a little more on guard of that next time. Thank you.
Okay, our second item is to consider the adoption of the city's updated housing elephant. Jennifer, you got a report on that one?
Well, this should be much easier. Tonight before you, I have a recommendation to adopt our housing element. As you are well aware, we have been working on this for some time. We prepared a draft that was submitted to you before the end of last year. At that time, we let you know that we had submitted in October up to HCD. At that time, we hadn't received comments. In December, we received our comment letter from HCD, which of course we were not ready for certification. We have several items to continue to work out with HCD, and we are confident based on not only the letter communication, but on our verbal communications with HCD staff that we'll be able to secure that certification in this coming year. With that in mind, we moved forward and met with the CDC and also one member of the Community Advisory Committee that came back to discuss the most updated version of the housing element with us. We did reach out to all of the members. We did receive feedback from a couple. There were actually a couple that no longer live in the city, so that was a little disappointing. But the folks that weren't able to participate in the meeting, they did just ask me for a briefing on what had changed, if anything, and to give them some information so that they could provide feedback. At the CDC meeting, we presented the information to CDC and provided for them direction that we feel puts the city in the best position possible. What we're asking for tonight is that you would adopt the housing element update. What this allows you to do is to be in compliance with state law, and it puts us in our clear path to be on the 8-year review cycle, which was our goal, if you remember. While we are not certified today, certification is not the last straw to get in that 8-year cycle. So long as we submitted by the October deadline and we have adoption before February 12th, we are automatically in compliance with state law. So the next step will be to do the refinements that we have talked about or that we showed you in the letter with HCD to get our full certification. The other options that are available to you is we can adopt the housing element and you can direct staff to make no further changes. That would put us in a position where we would not receive certification from the state. That creates all sorts of other challenges. We're not recommending that option, but it is an option for the council to consider. And then the last would be that we continue to revise the document and we resubmit to HCD and we hold a special hearing of the council prior to February 12th to look at those final revisions that address the concerns raised by HCD. We're also not recommending that. We'd like to have a good amount of time to work with HCD and to really respond to the comments that they have for us and get us in a place where we can receive certification. We don't think that that could happen in a 10-day or so period of time, and we hate to call on the council for a special meeting if it's not really going to be as productive as we think possible. So CDC agreed with us and is recommending tonight that you would adopt the element as it stands tonight, put us in compliance with state law, and allow us to move forward and give us direction to work with HCD for refinement. We did receive, and I'm so excited, from our advisory committee a full edited version that was great input on questions that they had, why we're making certain statements. We were able to have a great dialogue. So we do really have some great feedback to move forward with HCD and also really to change some of the, not so much policy, but just reflection of the community in the document. So we're excited about that feedback as well. With that, that would end our report. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know this has been a long process. I feel like we're about 90% there, and if we just can work through these last refinements, I shouldn't jinx it and say it out loud, but I think we can get certification this year.
And that would last us until
8 years.
8 years from now.
Yes.
And can I ask, who was the one member of the CAC that was able to come back and go through all the documents with you?
Ed Yoder.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Okay, council have any questions of staff?
I so move.
Yeah, let's do this.
We have public
comment.
Okay.
All right, do we have any
Okay.
public comment? Anyone like to approach the podium and address the issue? Seeing none, we got any council comments on this?
I'll make a motion to move it.
Second. Yes.
Discussion.
You want to have discussion?
Yep,
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I find this entire thing profoundly frustrating. It is a ridiculous hoop-jumping exercise that the state throws at us, and we're constantly working to please the master from on high as they try to manipulate the way our community sees itself, whether we see it that way or not. And when I'm looking at the analysis, it really comes down to the one sentence where it talks about the Southern California Association of Governments regional agency responsible for defining the fair share allocation in the 6 counties and 187 cities in Southern California. Should be a buzzword to everybody. Fair share. So they're telling us what we have to do to bear whatever burden they've fabricated. So for me, this is it's centralized planning is what it is. And that's the Soviet Union, no matter how you cut it. And that bothers me. And it's a huge administrative burden. If you look at the amount of time that staff has had to take, citizens advisory committee members have taken, council members have taken, and that eats up time and money, which is why government has to get bigger, so we hire another extra person to keep jumping through the hoops from the centralized planners. I really feel like this is a problem that calls out for some legislative relief. And I don't know if you noticed when we were at the Orange Park Acres meeting on Saturday morning, Assemblyman Don Wagner was talking about a piece of legislation he was carrying specific to dealing with equestrian communities that wasn't allowed for in the law. I think this would be an excellent type of legislation for us to ask Assemblyman Wagner to carry, so that there should be some sort of relief for a city of our size as they're jumping through these hoops and that are built out to a certain percentage. I'm going to vote no on principle, and I'd like those things noted in the minutes as I laid them out. And I would further ask that our city manager get with our elected assembly member and ask him to carry some legislation forward on that. You know, later on tonight, we are going to pass, perhaps, the legislative platform before us. That's item number 12. And one of those things laid in there has to do with that we oppose legislation that is inconsistent with the doctrine of home rule and interferes with the local exercise of powers over land use, or requires a federal, state, or county entity to develop model planning practices and policies. We are going to pass something that say we oppose that. We should be opposing that. And if everybody keeps saying they're going to oppose it, and yet we keep laying down and playing dead every time they crack the whip, jump, how high, yes, sir, yes, master, then things never change. Because they're trying to force us into a box that isn't Villa Park at all. And it's certainly not how we see ourselves. So it's frustrating and it's wrong, and I'm saying no. So there you go. That's my comment.
Any further comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Second. Okay, Jared.
I have a previous motion from Councilman Reese, seconded by Councilman Mills, to adopt Resolution 2014-3267, adopting General Plan Amendment 2014-001, and update to the City of Villa Park's housing element. Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes, however, I do agree with Councilwoman Polly.
I think we all agree.
We all agree.
We can't do
I agree
nothing
too.
though.
Well, this has just been a shell game. That's what
Yeah,
it, that's
I
what
mean,
it is.
we
so.
all agree, but what are you gonna do?
Well, what you don't do is just say nothing. Oh, what am I going to do? No, you do something. You fight it.
Well, maybe we all should vote no, Deborah.
Well,
I mean,
That's another.
and
that's
see
another-
what happens.
let's.
I think that's another.
That could be a really, but I think the best thing
What
for
would
us to
happen,
do
Jennifer,
is
if we all say forget it.
to assist.
4 years.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You know, I mean,
Assist. Well, we know what's going to happen.
You
Well,
know?
it would be interesting to see what happens, but I think that the best thing we can do is to request an assistance from our assembly member and see if he can get a legislative fix for us.
Make change.
All right. Next is the consent calendar. All items on the calendar are considered routine, usually enacted by one motion approving the recommended action listed on the agenda. Any member of council or public may request an item to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion or separate action. Do we have any items to be pulled?
I'll poll 8, Mr. Mayor.
8, okay.
I wanted 8 also, and I'll pull 11.
Okay,
I wanted 11 also, and I'll pull 3 and 12.
okay. Greg?
I think we're all covered.
Yeah, let's pull them all.
No.
I figured since I was gonna have to handle this up here, I left the consent calendar alone this month, so. All right, well, on number 8, Brad, I guess you're up.
Let's go ahead and move the balance. I'll move the balance,
Good
Mr.
point.
Mayor.
Go ahead. Thank you. Second?
Yeah,
Did we
I'll
get a
second
I
on
think
that?
Greg
Okay.
seconded it.
Councilwoman Polly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. All right, now back to you, Brad, on number 8.
All right, number
Wait,
8.
We're not gonna take them in order?
Wait, you pulled 3, didn't you?
I just,
Yes, I did.
I was just going, I just gave, we can go
Okay.
in order. I just did them in the order
Okay,
they were
that's
requested.
fine.
Going
That's
down my
fine. We'll
list.
go up to 8 and then come
I,
back.
More
I just
logically that way.
am very happy Bill Nelson and Dan Carlberg would like to serve on the Investment Advisory Committee for another 2-year term. They do a wonderful job. I thank them and applaud them, and I just wanted to make mention of my appreciation of them. So I'm in support of that.
Couldn't agree more.
I'll second or third that, or whatever it is, even though they're not here to see it, so.
Okay. Is that it? on that one?
That's it.
I pulled this, and I agree with you on those also, but I had some questions here that I did address to Jared, because it says here that we only have 6 committee members, and we're supposed to have 7. And it also, there's a notice here that says staff will keep posting the 3 remaining seats, 1 voting and 2 non-voting, and one of the questions I had is, where was it posted, because I never saw it. I didn't know anything about it till I got here. So I'm not sure if there are other people who want to be part of the Investment Advisory Committee. We obviously have room because we only have 6. So I think maybe we need to do a better job posting. I know that it wasn't posted, so it needs to be changed. If it's not on the website, it could be put in the paper, call them, so at least we have some sort of an idea. Let some of the leagues know, but it wasn't posted.
Move it?
I'll move it.
Second? I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion is to reappoint Bill Nelson, Dan Carlberg to serve on the Investment Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes?
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Councilman Polly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
And we have, again, on number 11.
11, okay. We worked really hard, and staff worked really hard on this master fee schedule, and obviously it's very convoluted, so it's good to see that you're looking at it, Jared, and there's room here for improvement. I know that the $100 fee when it comes to the business license is a very good idea. One of the examples he gives that you want to change is when the gardeners come in, it's easier to pay $100 than $102. But what I have a small problem with is on number 3 and number 4. First of all, waiving the sign permit and also reducing the dollar amount. I don't believe that getting a sign permit should be free. There's cost to the city, and that is administrative costs, it's labor costs, it's the utilities, and so on. We also don't want to have the town center be full of banners with businesses coming in and having them be up all the time. There is some value in when you do pay for something. So I understand removing the fee from $450 to $30. I don't think $30 is enough to cover the counter fee, quite frankly, and the paper and the ink and everything else. And I think you should be reasonable. I mean, at least $50 at that point. And I do think that you do need a sign permit.
Are you talking about number 3? You're talking
3 and 4.
when you're talking about waiving the sign permit, you're talking about they still have to pull a permit, correct? They just are.
Correct. I'll clarify the
Please.
2 fees. Reference number 3 in the staff report references number 29, fee number 29 on our master fee schedule. That's the sign basic permit fee. This is for businesses wishing to remove their overhead signs or wishing to replace their overhead signs. Subway recently did it. Rockwell's recently did it. We want to move away from the ugly white can signs, and hopefully by waiving the permit fee, we would encourage businesses to swap out ugly signs for new ones. Reference number 4 in the staff report is the temporary sign and banner fee. Now these are your grand openings, Christmas sales, 10% off this weekend. The fee, $446, is rather high for a 30-day permit. Yes, there is some staff time involved with it, we mark the day that, it's still a permit's required. It's an over-the-counter permit. They let us know when they want to put it up, and 30 days later, we make sure they take it down. If they do not, then, we track them. So there is some administrative work that goes behind that.
How much is the current basic fee for the sign permit? Is $228? approximately?
$227, and can you clarify, Jennifer, if that includes the site plan review or not? Okay.
Okay.
All inclusive, $227.
Okay, and we have staff time involved when someone wants to put a new sign down.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
Is that minimal time?
It's minimal. Jennifer can explain her plan check for the sign, and then Bill Taryn is out in the field and make sure they install it properly.
Before you do that, in the last recent years, didn't we have a moratorium on, we gave everybody a break, not that they didn't have to pay their sign fee if they wanted to replace it?
Correct.
And how many people replaced their signs at that time?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. A handful, not many.
I mean, $228 is not a lot of money when you're looking at replacing the sign for your business. Signs are very expensive.
If I might, there were 4 signs during the reimbursement period when you could be reimbursed for the sign fee. Part of the time the cost goes to the contractor rather than to the business owner themselves. However, one of the things that the city manager and I were in discussions about is when we met with the town center business folks, one of the things that they talked about was economic development and trying to help really improve the business conditions here in the town center. And we felt that this was hearkening back to that economic development plan of reducing the cost of doing business in Villa Park. And while it's a small gesture, we felt that anything that the city can do to move out of the way of businesses improving in the town center and improving their properties and moving into our city, we wanted to support and be friendly with.
But the last town center meeting, though, the owners didn't say anything like that. They were more concerned with how much their triple net was, how much their rent was, and the fact that the center had not been updated. Unless Councilman Mills recalls, I didn't hear anybody complain about the sign permits or anything like that, unless I'm not remembering properly.
The main thing that the business owners were complaining about actually was the owners. Be quite frank with you, that was the main thing because of their hesitance to upgrade anything at all. So, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we kind of let them go, and I think this fee schedule is a step forward. I mean, obviously make it simpler. I agree with that, but Councilwoman Fasenelli has a good point that some of this needs to be streamlined a little further, I think.
Is it my turn yet?
Are you finished? I'm done. Yeah.
Did you lay everything out? Okay.
I did.
Okay. I'm just going to say that I think this is a step in the right direction. And I do remember when we had the special sign rebate program. And we did have a few businesses that took advantage of it. But you have to remember that was really the height of a very massive economic downturn when we were trying to revitalize things. And so we were doing, what we could. Things are looking up, but we maybe need a little bit more to, get the rest on board. I think you're right. I think the idea of not charging someone, for the city not to charge someone for wanting to change their sign when we actually want them to change their signs. We want to encourage them to do that is a perfect idea. So I absolutely support that idea. I think it's obscene to charge someone $446 to put up a temporary banner for a month to advertise that they're having, a 30% off sale at the Pink Laundry or whatever. That's just an obscene amount of money. I think that $30 is reasonable. It's $1 a day. I think you do control it by having them have to pull a permit. I have one question on number 5 because I don't know what this is. What is this? This reduced transportation permit fee. What is this transportation permit fee?
This is required by the state. Anytime when there is a equipment or large vehicles are being transported on city roads, a permit is required to be issued, and the fee is set by the state, which is right now it's $16 for each trip.
Okay.
So that's like a big dump trucks and things like that.
Yeah, large trucks like graders, you have big, which is oversized trucks. And this is mainly is to the truckers will provide the necessary insurance in case if there's any damage to the road or damage to the right of way, then you're able to get back to them.
Would that be like homes that are being redone, or there's equipment there that would require that $16 fee?
Unless they're coming with a large trucks that oversized or graders or that, then those permits are required. But regular trucks,
no,
the 10 tons, the 20 tons, no, they're not.
But we were charging $50, even though the state vehicle code only required 16.
No,
okay, help me.
No, we were charging this proper
60.
16.
Yes.
That was just part of like the oversight when the whole fee study was done.
Yes.
It was like time management, what we're doing, that was the allocation that was allotted to that. But as we were going forward, we're like, no, this is $16. So as we figured, we'll just bring it forward. So we've been charging every $16.
Okay, good. Fix it.
So
Good.
just fixing it.
Got it. I agree with number 4. I agree with number 3. And then I want to understand these items. We're talking about reference items 5 through 11 when you're looking at number 2. Creates a no fee permit, and yet I'm seeing at the end here prices that are still being charged for public property construction. Public property construction by private residents who want to make improvements to our public property while they're doing construction. Help me understand what's going on here.
The proposal is to waive the fee for our Villa Park residents. AT&T could come into the city, Edison could come into the city, the gas company could come into the city and still tear apart construction, sidewalks, curb and gutters, and thought is to charge utility companies to just waive the fee for our Villa Park residents.
And how is that clarified here? I don't see how it's
in
clarified.
the resolution.
Thank you.
It's like if you wanted to redo the apron on your driveway, basically.
Yes, I know.
In the resolution, there are the reference numbers. They have stars next to them.
Yes.
At the end of that, it says resident property owners of Villa Park are exempt from these fees.
So they won't pay for any of those amounts that are along the side?
No, sir.
Okay,
No, ma'am.
ma'am, that's good. That works for me. All right, good.
Oh, you're not Senator.
Or
Buster.
sir. I'm feeling kind of manly today. Let's I want to talk about number 1. As I said, this is a step in the right direction. These are the kinds of things that I've actually been challenging Jennifer Lilly to go through our code and figure out ways to quit charging people for things, to quit making people come in and permit, to quit getting in their business and in their lives. I want to talk a little bit about number 1, and that is the whole idea of the business license fee. You've got an administrative fee, and then you have the license fee. And I thought this, I want to talk about this because this actually came to my attention before I ever got on the council. I wanted to understand what getting a Villa Park business license meant. Because as your average citizen, I assumed that it meant that the city of Villa Park had looked at this business and had determined that these people who were who they said they were, that they had, a background that was, whatever, that they were competent in the job that they'd getting their license for. Is that what's happening? No. This is what happens when Villa Park issues a business license fee. They get this application and they fill it in with their name and the name of their business. Nobody checks it. Nobody. We hand this to Bethany, who's part-time administrative staffer. They hand it to her with a check for $100, and then they are given a license to operate in the city. And then we say, oh, look at all the work we have to do now because we're making people come in and get a business license. This is administrative work. Now we have to charge an administrative fee to do this. So what we are in effect doing is for no reason whatsoever requiring people to come in and go through a paperwork exercise so that we can collect money, so that we can collect more money, and it tells us nothing about this business. It doesn't tell residents about this business. When somebody gets a license, to me, it means that I studied the book, I took the test, I drove the car, they said you're good. I went to cosmetology school, I did my tutorial, whatever it was, I took the test, I'm good. You know, I have my PhD, I can practice, I have a doctor's license. But this means nothing except for we've figured out a way as a city to go along with every other city, every other county, every other state to extract more money from businesses for no reason. And I am actually thinking that it's crazy that we're doing this. Yes, we're now to the point where we're making $35,000 a year by doing this, but I have to ask, how did we allow ourselves to get sucked in to what's happening in the country right now? How did we allow this to happen? I think it's wrong, and I would like to have us have no fee and no requirement to get a business license in order to function in this city, unless your business is actually in the city. That's my feeling. Anyway, and that's what I would support. Feedback?
Do you mean that this is people from the outside the city or inside?
I'm saying that if you own a business that is actually operating in this city, then I can see us, because it's pretty easy to put your finger on it. Yep, there's Rockwell's. It's actually right here. We know who they are, you know. But to require that anybody that steps foot in this city and wants to conduct business in this city, a gardener, for instance, has to come in here and pay $100. For what? So that he can mow our lawns? Doesn't he already have business expenses? Doesn't he already pay taxes? Yeah, I think they do. Sears, now we're talking about really ratcheting it up from this last thing that we've passed on with this attorney that's figured out how to make money. They figured out how to make money by going after anybody that even delivers in our community. You're going to go after the Culligan water guy. You're going to go after everybody. We're going to go after everybody so that we can double from 35,000 to 70,000. We don't need to do that. We don't. We're getting greedy. We don't even need what we've got. We are working within our means. We're putting money away, and this does not facilitate economic development. And I actually wanted Jennifer Lilly to talk to us about that, because when I brought it up to her, she said there are actually other municipalities that are doing this, and I'm thinking, fabulous. Why are they doing this, and what are they doing? I have a question. I have a question on the floor with our planning manager first, and then you can beat me up on my idea.
I'm not going to beat you up. We've gone off on such a tangent.
No, it's not a tangent. We're setting fees, and I say we shouldn't be charging people to do business $100, especially since half of that is just the administration. And $100, it takes Bethany more than an hour to process this thing.
So we don't have to charge him a fee for a sign. We don't have to charge him a fee for being a business. We don't have to charge him for putting up temporary signs.
Perfect.
But we have to have a staff that monitors the business.
They pay taxes.
Monitors.
They don't monitor the business.
Wait a minute. They pay taxes.
They do pay taxes.
Okay, for the city of Villa Park.
Yep.
Sales tax.
And
we
now
don't have a property tax for our businesses in here.
And that sales tax comes to us through something separate than this business license.
Okay, we don't have that. I'm just saying we have to have a staff to monitor the businesses. I mean, there are rules that we have books with rules that says this is what the businesses have to do business in Villa Park. I mean, how is the city going to function? These are not $100 is not an unreasonable business license fee. I actually need a business license to open up certain bank accounts, to open up fictitious business. There are requirements out there that have a business license. So if I have a business in Villa Park, it takes paper, it takes ink, it takes postage. Quite frankly, we shouldn't put that burden on our residents to pay for that. I just don't think it's excessive. That's all. $100 is not an excessive fee.
That's the initial fee. And then they use that when you come back around and start billing them. If you'll look later on in the documentation, then the fee ratchets up based on how much sales sales they are generating. That's what ends up happening. I'm sorry, you'll have to kind of look at this. Once their gross receipts hit 15,000, then the tax goes up, and it's called a tax now, right?
There's several ways to calculate the fee. Businesses outside the city, your gardeners who are coming in, your pool men who are coming in, your Sears repairman who's coming in is a flat $100 fee. The Villa Park Municipal Code regulates the tax. Since 1976, it's been a $50 fee. A couple years ago is when the City Council approved the regulatory fee for it, which is now the proposed $49 fee, making it $100 total.
Oppose that.
Excuse me, because the state says you have to charge $1 for contractor state board license requirements. I don't know.
Right.
So it's a $100 fee. Businesses inside the city who are operating out of their house or here in the town center are charged on that gradual scale based on the revenue that they receive. Professional businesses, it exceeds no more than maybe $135 a year. But for our retail sales businesses, Wayne's Liquor and Rouse, it's based off retail sales in a different scale for them. So.
And that's separate from the taxes that they're already paying. That's separate.
But we also don't charge
And we
property
get
taxes.
money from that. No, but we get money from that. We eventually, as it goes through the system, end up getting money from that tax. But my question, Jennifer, back to you, is what's happening with other municipalities that are starting to waive these business license fees, and why?
So I can't speak to starting to, but I can tell you there is the city of Lake Forest is one municipality specifically that has chosen, because of economic development incentive in their minds, to not have a business license fee. So they do require businesses to, and I forget the word they use, but kind of register with the city so they know what they're doing. But there is no fee involved at this time. Someday they may change that practice, but up until today, they still maintain that. Also, we saw a trend during the recession, specifically, and some cities haven't gone back to this, for business license amnesty. Sounds like a harsh word, but basically it was trying to say we want to encourage businesses, we want to encourage entrepreneurialism, and so we're going to waive, kind of like we've been talking about with the sign permit. We'll waive the business license fee for a period of time and allow new business ventures to get moving. So we have seen this go on, not only in our county, but throughout the state, as trying to, breathe life into our economy and not penalize the small business. In other cases, we do see businesses, my business, we contract throughout the state. And there are some cities that even if we're contracting for one day in their city, we must get a business license. So it kind of depends on the municipality and what their
How
process
truly
is.
business friendly they are. That's really what it boils down to. How truly business friendly are we as a community? I can understand us desiring to have a registration and a list of the businesses that are operating for the sake of tracking taxes and being assured that we are getting our sales tax in our pocket. But I can't understand us piddling around with this almost a nuisance, and now we're going out after them. We're attacking them with the action that we took last month, as far as I'm concerned. And it just doesn't sit well with me. We should be going the other way. We should be lifting all these things that have been piled on over years of anti-business climate. It's happening everywhere, and we shouldn't be part of it.
Any other?
Jennifer, so there's like 3 things we're talking about here, it seems like. Item 1 is the pool guy that lives in Yorba Linda that comes to Villa Park and services a pool at a residence. How long have we been nailing that guy for a fee?
For as long as he's owned up to it and said, I'm conducting, business
so
in your
obviously
city.
the majority of them you don't even know about. I mean, of course.
Correct.
But if he were to waltz in and say, yeah, I serve pool in your city, you'd nail him for a hundy. Okay. And that's been going on forever.
Since 1976.
Okay. And then there's the homeowner that lives in Villa Park that has a side business they do, if you will, or a business they run out of their home, whatever it may be. Same boogie for them. That's been going on forever, and they pay a fee as well. And then, of course, there's
Some
the
of
hard
'em do.
business, which is in Town Center. Okay. How do you propose on the pool guy? Do you propose to try to ratchet up the catching these guys, or you're just saying we want to reduce it down to make it easier and they still have to show up? I mean,
We are going to reduce it down to make it easier for processing. You know, $100 is easier to process than $107.95. The company that we entered into an agreement with last month, HMC, is now going after
Everybody.
they're going to try to
illegal
find
businesses.
all of them, whatever. And Jennifer, you'd mentioned Lake Forest. We talked about 3 types of business license fees. Was that all 3 types in Lake Forest? It was all across the board, the whole thing.
Across the board.
Wow.
Where we should be going. We should be taking the lead on that.
Right. Could I
Should've been our idea.
just make one quick comment? I
We
know
in
it's not
public
open floor.
Are we in public comment?
Well, anybody can comment on an item in the agenda.
I don't have much to say. I just wanted.
If you want to make it quick, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, something real quick. Deborah, as a business person, I appreciate your position, but I did want to just make the comment. I do business in a lot of different cities, and Villa Park is actually very reasonable. So, I mean, for nothing for nothing, but I don't mind paying the fees because it's not out of line compared to everybody else.
Well, we're a small city, so your pool of potential customers is quite a bit smaller than most cities.
Agreed. I just wanted to let you know we're pretty reasonable overall.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
You have another public comment.
oh, I'm sorry.
I
Leanne.
didn't- that's-
Russ Patterson, Arnique Court, Villa Park. I sent you guys a little missive about this thing, and I kind of backed off it a little bit. I wasn't even thinking of coming here tonight. I just went to Ralph's to get some eggs, and I thought, oh, the council's on, and I walked in.
That's awesome.
Only in,
Not-
only in
I'm-
Villa
I'm
Park.
passionate about it, but, Rancho Santa Margarita's never had a business license tax for an out-of-town contractor. And I don't know, I assume they register, and we don't have to register there if we get a building permit. I assume they have business licenses for the people in town, but I have no idea. I'm a public works contractor, like the gentleman just spoke. I probably have 50 active business city licenses across the region, and some of them are really onerous. Some of them are $300-400. The thing I don't like about this agreement is HMC has given you a database. That's all they've done. If HMC gives you the name of someone and they come to get a business license, you've just given them 30%. To me, that's a bad contract. That's the part I don't like about this. And like Councilmember Pauly, I think that we need to be very cognizant. Yes, $100 is nothing, but $100 is a tax. You read your municipal code, it says this license fee is a tax. And you're probably, all of you pretty conservative people, you're raising taxes on small business people if you enact this policy.
Yep.
And that's why I don't think it should be put forward. I don't know if the contract's signed or what it is, but I think fundamentally the contract's flawed. I'd like to have the same opportunity. Can I come in here and give the city a database of businesses that might do city in Villa Park, and I'll only take 20% instead of 30%. But that's the deal you've made with HMC. Thank you.
Jared, this has nothing to do with the contract. We're just talking about a business license fee. This does not reference the contract at all.
Yes, but what happened, what transpired last month absolutely changes this dramatically for me. And it really brought to my mind the questions that I had 7-8 years ago about why in the world are we doing this? Why are we doing this? When a citizen in Villa Park sees that someone has a license to do business in Villa Park, there are assumptions that are made by that average citizen.
I don't think those
Oh,
assumptions are made,
I
Deborah,
think you're
for a
wrong.
business license. It's not a PhD. mean, it couldn't even be the person's name.
It
It's a-
sure
it's a-
doesn't cost $100 for our part-time admin to take a form, take a check, and issue a license, and then enter the data in a database, and then spit it back out on an annual basis. That's $100 a billable hour? You've got to be joking. No, it's not. And it doesn't even take an hour, I'm sure of it. This is wrong. I'll tell you what. We've got to move this item. We can beat this up forever, and I don't think we want to do that anymore. But I would like for us to look at what we're doing. And these business licenses need to be split off. And I just think that it's wrong what we're doing. I just really have problems, real fundamental problems with it.
Yeah, we've gone up. We have beaten this to death. We can't spend all night on this. Frankly, I tend to concur to some extent with it. I'm thinking maybe we should put this thing over. My observation on this is the solicitor permit we really haven't talked about. Brad raised 3 categories. He didn't hit on solicitor permit. The solicitor permit to me seems appropriate. Somebody's going to roam around the street knocking on doors, and I want to know what's going on there, and some reasonable fee to bear the cost of administering that program seems appropriate to me. But I got to tell you, charging fees to somebody that's hit and miss for a gardener that roams in the city, or somebody comes in to clean your house, either to make them illegal because they're not talking to us, or to charge them to come in and do that, I have to agree. I just think it's wrong. I don't think we need those fees that badly, and I don't think that's enough connection that we have with that person or their business to justify that fee. And I'll just tell you, I went to a social event. I don't know, it was a Simply Social or something, and I had 3 people come up to me all upset about that contract we had entered into because it was going to affect their gardener and their housekeeper or whatever. And I chuckled it off, and I think I talked to, frankly, I think Brad, you were there, and we both looked at it and said, that's not anything we ever contemplated, and it certainly wasn't on my part. So I have to agree with Deborah on that.
The solicitor permit is one thing. We really never knew that. It's just always been there.
I was unaware that a gardener or a housekeeper comes in to a residence and they're supposed to get a business license. And frankly, I think it's wrong. And but I don't think we have time to deal with this tonight, and I think it ought to get some more attention.
All right, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? No, because I want the other things to move forward. Is it possible to make a motion to adopt the resolution minus the references in number 1, and to bring that back to council for further discussion and dividing those different levels of business off into another, so that we can decide whether or not we feel like we should be doing this to businesses? Is that possible to do that, Jared?
It is. If we do not adopt this change, the business license fee will stand at $107.95 a month until we decide something
All right.
else.
Then what I'd like to do is, if everyone concurs, to go ahead and adopt this resolution 2014-3268, and then request that city staff bring back the business license and solicitor permit fee for further discussion at next month. With some recommendations. We're going to have to obviously send that to one of the committees to really look at what we're doing and decide whether we really want to go there.
Absolutely. The business license tax essentially has been set in the municipal code since 1976. Hasn't been looked at, hasn't been touched, hasn't been addressed since.
So let's look at it.
That's
Then let's do that.
we're talking about?
That's half of item 1, yes.
Yeah.
So the tax is $50, and we're saying it takes another $50 for staff to process the business license fee.
Yeah. But the solicitor's permit is relatively new, and the purpose for that is to drive them to come in here to get the do not solicit registry, which many residents find to be very, very helpful. So is that okay? Can we? That's my motion.
The only reason we have the solicitor one is because we have to allow them to solicit, right?
Yes.
If the people don't object, that's the law.
Correct.
Okay.
For soliciting it, it's
So
free
I
to
would be in
speech.
favor of banning all solicitors myself.
Well, but we can't do that.
We can't do that.
But we're doing pretty well. So that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second. I got it. Yep. Let's go.
Mr. Mayor, quick question. So, Jared, on item 1, just really quick, what are the two extremes? Extreme one on item one would be the gardener that comes into one account in Villa Park once a week. That's that extreme. The other extreme might be the Culligan man that has 29 accounts in Villa Park. Is that really the two extremes?
Yeah, or a home-based business, and the gentleman's making $5 million a year.
Is an item one. Is an item one's external coming into
No,
our city?
item one's everything.
Oh, it's both.
The administrative fee is charged to every single business license, whether you're inside the city or outside the city. So the extreme is, yes, the gardener who's servicing one property in the city, chances are he doesn't even have a permit.
Well, of course not.
Yeah,
He
but
doesn't
we're
know
gonna-
about it. He doesn't care about
No.
it. It's like a housekeeper
Exactly.
that comes into one house.
Exactly.
They don't know anything about that.
The opposite extreme is the home-based business. The financial advisor is working out of his house, making $5 million a year, paying $132. Yeah, of course. You're making $5 million. What's the difference? What's $132 for it? You know.
Which clearly that's Mr. Jordan.
Interesting.
He doesn't have a problem paying his $100.
So those are the extremes. It's.
Oh, you'd rather not now. I
The
see.
motion that's on the table, what's that do to the other, to number 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Approves them. The motion's to approve the resolution and all the numbers as stated in the staff report, and then at the next meeting we'll bring back some recommendations with regard to the fee.
I can't agree to that.
Second.
I can't agree to that.
Well,
3 and
I
4.
think did
I already seconded it.
he's already seconded it.
You wanna do
So
a vote, Jerry?
you want to call for the vote?
I think so.
Yes,
Oh.
sir.
So let me just get this
Oh, you're
clear.
still asking
We're
questions.
saying to approve it as is, but then bring it back to rediscuss it again?
To
No.
approve it, your approval tonight will lower it to $100.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. Rather than if you didn't approve number one tonight, which was the administrative fee, it will remain at $107.95.
Right.
So
but
for the
we're
time
approving
being,
this
we're
whole thing tonight.
correct.
But then we're going to bring it back to discuss to change it again.
We're only going to
License
bring
fees
back
only
just
number
the
one.
business license
All right.
portion
Oh,
of
you're
it.
only bringing back
Just
one.
that.
Only
Yes.
number one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
All right.
And that's a little more time exhaustive because it's written in the municipal code. So
Okay.
getting
All
rid of
right,
that fee
fine.
might take a little bit longer.
Okay.
Motion is to adopt resolution 2014-3268. Councilwoman Pauly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
No.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Okay. Next, we have Councilwoman Polly on item number 3.
Back to item number 3, and item 3 is the list of warrants. I had a couple of questions, and I'm going to just get down to just the one, having to do with, let's see, this would be page 1 of the 1218 check registry, 1348 Kim Ironworks, the wrought iron fence along Wanda and Collins down at the corner.
The infamous fence.
$3,780. Does that include the repairs made that,
The repairs have not been made yet, but it will. I'm holding off on the repairs because I also received a quote to install vertical pickets, which should hopefully anchor some of the posts down so they're not removed, as well as a perforated screen so you can't kick them out. So I'm going over those quotes right now. And
I'm not
evaluating them.
sure I feel comfortable paying this person for putting in wrought iron that was kicked out within a matter of days. I think that's an issue. I'd like to see those repairs made before we ever pay them for the work that they're doing. Although I'm sure you want to maintain your relationship with him as you work to fix the situation. So I don't feel comfortable with paying that until the repairs are made. That's number one. Number two, we had quite a bit of public comment tonight about the gate for sure down at the end of Collins that is currently permanently locked. I have had also emails, and I drove down there to talk to the residents to find out what they're thinking, and they don't like having that gate permanently locked. And so I'm wondering, I would like to see us bring that item back next month. I'm doing it here because it's the only place that I can think of to do it. I would like us to bring it back to reconsider opening that gate, unlocking that gate so that residents can go in and out freely. So that's, I don't think we should be paying somebody until the repairs are made, but I'm willing to approve the rest of the list of warrants. And then second, I'm requesting that next month we review the gate. They've already been paid, so we're approving paying something after it's already been paid?
It was paid the week that it was installed, as most, you know, when somebody does work for you, you pay them, you know, in a timely manner. So we paid them for the work that they had done.
Yes.
I mean,
I think
it
this is the way
was
we
due
always do it.
diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel comfortable approving this list of warrants knowing full and well that the repairs haven't been made yet.
Well, they broke out, the rods were broken afterwards, and we have a guarantee. I actually asked Jared on this one also. I was concerned about it too, that it
Good.
wasn't
But
proper.
iron work should not be kicked out so readily, that's for sure. All right, very good. I'll move it. And please make note of
Second.
my request for the next council meeting.
I concur, Deborah, about bringing that back.
Yeah, because, I mean, I was against all these fences and gates in the first place.
I'm not saying to bring back the fence, just the gate at the end.
Bring it all back.
You want to bring it all back?
Yes,
Can we
I
move
would
it,
bring it
Jared?
all
We got
back.
a first and a second.
I think the gate's the first good move.
I think I just want to bring the gate back. But we do have to have a vote on item 3 because it's
Yes,
list
we do for
warrants.
the
And
warrants.
I've moved it.
I seconded it.
Okay, let's go.
And the roll call vote. Councilwoman Polly.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett. Excuse me. Councilman Reese. Habit after 2 years. Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
That's a yes on me too.
All right, good.
Okay, Councilwoman Polly, item 12.
Item 12 is the adoption of a legislative platform for 2014. I'm assuming that we got this pretty much from the Orange County Association of Governments. I think it's great because it gives staff guidance and knows where they can get involved. My concern has to do in general at the bottom, item number 1, where it says the city will take into consideration the strategic goals adopted by the Association of California Cities, Orange County, and League of California Cities. We left the League of California Cities because they are often in opposition to the political sensibilities in this city. So I would like to see that last bit stricken. We're no longer members, and I just don't think they should be directing, you know, our policy guidelines for us. Other than that, I'll be happy to move it, and hope you all agree with me on that.
Anybody else have any
Well,
comments?
actually, I'd like to look into that more before it actually gets removed. And the only reason I'll tell you why is that I watched the Orange Council meeting last month, and they had some numbers that I certainly can't quote here about how many people had left the League of Cities, and how many of those people have now gone back to them. And there was a lot. And they feel that the move was made wrong, and a lot of cities that thought it was made wrong. And I can't, when we voted for that is when I first came on the council, and I abstained only because I didn't know enough about it. So I question it now that I'm seeing cities go back to that particular organization. So I don't know if we can table this, but I can't make a decision whether or not that's right or wrong, because I'm just seeing a trend.
All right. We're talking about the 2014 legislative platform. We are currently, for this year, not members of the League of California Cities. So there's really no good reason for us to worry about what it is that they are, what their strategic goals are for the coming year. We're not part of it. We usually don't get input. Even when we were involved, we didn't get input. The cities down here would provide input, and then the state league of cities would just do whatever they wanted anyway. And it was usually and diametrically opposed to the things that we were working for down here in Orange County. Hence this break-off organization. This is just the 2014 legislative platform.
So do we
I
change?
think by the time you explore this, and maybe you can convince the council it's a great idea to go back into the League of Cities, there'll be a 2015 legislative platform. But for now, I see no reason for us to pay attention to their strategic goals when we're giving overall direction to our city manager, what he can press forward with without coming to us every 2 weeks.
I'm not trying to convince you, I just want to bring it up that bit of information came to me watching the Orange City Council, and the numbers that they gave were valid numbers, and I just think it's something that we should look into as to why.
Jared, do you have any comment on
Maybe
this?
something's changed.
Let me make a suggestion. Maybe I can shortcut this a little bit. What if we were to take, first of all, this talks about the city supports. It's got three paragraphs. It's got sentences. It's got 3 more sentences what the city opposes. Then it has this general language, and this is one part of that. It's nice to be able to look at things. Why don't we just take in paragraph number 1 under general, where it says the city will take into consideration, why don't we just put the city may take into consideration and leave some latitude for our staff to look at it. They know what our city policies and the council's position is. There's a lot of other material here. Why don't we just change that to a may, and that may solve the problem.
That's good. I'm okay with that.
Well, I think the problem with League of Cities is basically they're in the pocket of Governor Brown. I mean, to be quite frank with you.
But doesn't the may
No, it
coupled
doesn't.
with everything
Because
else,
what we're doing right here is we're essentially giving our city manager authority to go ahead and send off letters in support or in opposition to things based on the positions that have been taken by the Association of California Cities and the League of California Cities. Maybe I would be fine to take off all of the in general portion. I have no problem with the general policy guidelines of what the city supports and what kinds of things the city opposes. I'd be fine with taking both of those items off if you want to.
That's not a bad
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
What if we,
I'm
what
good
if
with
we
that.
struck, 2 is not bad, because 2
Two is a
allows
little
them
bit
to-
scary because the gut and amend can be a very scary process up there. You don't even know. And you're going to have to rely on the lobbyists, unfortunately, that are up there full-time on behalf of the Association of California Cities, Orange County, to know whether or not a gut and amend still actually means what it started out to say.
But somebody's got to take the position
Yeah,
on
it's
it.
right. That's right.
Okay.
It's exactly right.
So you're saying strike the in general?
Yeah, I'd be happy to support the. I think the other policy guidelines are spot on with the way I think we feel.
I don't really care about it.
I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good.
So you want to move to, you
So
want to move
I will
it
go
without-
ahead. I will
without the
go
general?
ahead and recommend that the council adopt the 2014 legislative platform minus the in general points 1 and 2.
And I'll second that.
What?
That's
Go ahead.
fine, yeah.
Never mind.
Vote.
What?
Oh, roll
Oh, I
call
thought you
vote.
said whoa.
Oh,
I
sorry.
said-
He said
I'll, Looking at Mayor Burnett on that one.
Okay.
Councilman Pauly.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes.
See, you can't have things done on one page.
Okay.
Yeah, really. It's really a nice. It's really a nice legislative platform, and it doesn't say more money, more money, more money, which is often what OUSD's Ledge Coalition's platform looks like.
Okay, the next item is the order of business for city council meetings, number 13. And I believe this is the proposal or to consider changing the city council meeting times from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Is there any comment from the audience out here? Anyone like to speak or address that? There appearing to be none. I'll come back to council, and we have anybody who wants to talk about this?
When I first brought this up to Jared, I had proposed 6:30. It's up for discussion. I think 6:30 is a more reasonable time than 6 o'clock, but that's certainly up to the majority of everyone up here.
You know, I thought about this a little bit. Selfishly, I like 6. However, I think Deanna's correct on 6:30 because some people work a little later, and to be fair to the public, I'd rather have it at 6 myself, but I think to be fair to the public, I'd say 6:30.
Anyone down here, or are we done?
I'll go with the pleasure of the rest of the council. I'm easy.
I frankly have that same, my thought process mirrors theirs, and that is that 6:30 is a good compromise.
6:30 is fine. 6:30 is fine if it's fine with you. I do have one question on because I noticed that we don't have meeting attendance reports as part of the agenda this time. Is that not going to be a separate item, or does a council member have to request?
The idea there, wait a minute, are we on that one yet, or?
Well, it's still part of what we're passing right now. This resolution is the only thing that's changing in here going to be the time.
Yeah, there's nothing about the agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the time.
Just the time, and then there was an item that the mayor and I discussed in order to expedite some of the meetings and get rid of some of the committee reports, foundation reports, and whatnot.
So there is actually a change.
Well, it's not necessarily a
Not in
change.
this.
We will set the mayor and council member requested matters as required.
Okay.
So if there is an item, a meeting that you attended that was compensated by the city, we will agendize that with the monthly travel and expense report that you had, and you'd be
Okay.
required to report out on it.
And we will be still receiving the monthly travel and expense reports where we can see where each council member has expended
Yeah,
their money.
you'll receive those, as expenses occur. Half the time, we go a month or two without attending a meeting paid for by the city.
Can we stay on track and address this one, because that's not part of this, that's another item.
Yes.
Yeah, so can I get a vote on this one?
I'll make a motion.
That's fine.
Second.
6:30.
Second.
Okay, Jared, we're good for the vote on 13.
Motion is to start the city council meetings at 6:30 p.m. Councilman Reese.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilman Pauly.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes.
And
Okay.
that takes effect immediately, so next month we'll begin at 6:30.
Item 14, is a matter to consider the process whereby city proclamations are approved. Do we have any public comment on that issue? I would doubt it. Okay, there being none, any council members have any comments on that one?
I'll start. There was a proclamation that was given, and I'm not going to say to whom because it didn't matter whether the person deserved it or not. But I found out about it just by conversation with the city manager, and I said, "Well, how'd this person get this? I didn't know anything about it." They said, "Oh," and his response was, "We give them out like water. You want one? You get one." And I said, "Well, it's not worth the paper that it's printed on." What makes our cities kind of unique, we talk about it all the time. And I think that if we give a proclamation to someone, they've done something worthy in their life, they've done something worthy for the city, and that we should not just be photocopying proclamations, signing them, and giving them out. There needs to be some worth put to it. And we have a lot of people who have done wonderful things that we've given it to, and I think that it would add some value to them, rather than just having a teacher or a father write a letter to every single city asking for a proclamation. I just want to make it worth the paper that it's at least written on. I'm done.
All right. Well, if you're referring to the father of the Eagle Scout, because that's what it sounds like to me.
I wasn't.
Well,
with all due respect, I think we'd be better off if we just address it generally.
And I'm looking at this. Are you talking about setting a policy for how? Is that what you're talking about, for how we issue proclamations?
I didn't bring this item up. I'm not sure where Mayor Barnett was going. I'm just telling
the item
you.
frankly came from me, but I was trying to get council comment before I'm happy to lead off. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Yes. In picking up on some of Councilwoman Fasenelli's comments, it seems appropriate, since we issue city proclamations, that at least we have some policy or basis for issuing them. And that's the only reason this came up, okay? I will tell you that I signed one the other day for an Eagle.
Yes.
And I kind of scratched my head on it. There was another one out there for I think a teacher. And I scratched my head on that as well, and I thought, what's the relationship to the city? What's the basis? How do we decide? And I asked, and there really wasn't a policy. And I know that Deanna had the same comment, and I made inquiries, not with council, but just talking to people on it, and there was a consensus that, well, it ought to have something to do with Villa Park, and the bottom line was, it seemed logical that we should have some policy if it's going to be a proclamation of the city council of Villa Park. Then there ought to be some process so that it's substantiated as a proclamation of the city council. And if in fact all we're doing is just throwing them in and writing the things out, it really doesn't do that. Whether it's a group of council, the mayor, some combination thereof, I really don't know that it matters, but it ought to be something so that at least it does get a consent and a flavor of the consensus, rather than just being tossed out there. It kind of devalues the document, and it really doesn't it's really not a proclamation of the city council if we're just tossing these out individually. So,
So it's the difference between the city and the city council, basically.
yeah, I mean,
And that's
it's,
what it was before.
when you look at it, it says proclamation. What does it purport to be? Does it say it's a proclamation of the city council? I haven't even looked at it.
It's just a blank form that says proclamation and.
City of,
Prepared them for the mayor's signature.
okay, so,
So we can just move it to the city council?
I'm just,
With the worthy items and,
I have a question.
okay.
How many of these are you issuing on a monthly basis?
They come in spurts.
Yes.
I have to admit that I brought a slug of them in here for the Girl
Oh,
Scouts.
that's right, you did. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know what? I think during the time I've been on the council, I've probably only requested 6. Sometimes it's been because, you know, I've been asked to present and I want our city to be represented there. Eagle Scouts for sure. Whenever someone makes Eagle, it's such a huge event. And I know that they keep these in a memory book. There was a resident in Villa Park who was celebrating her 80th birthday, and she's been a long-time contributor, and we did a nice little, I wrote it. All they did was put it on the pretty paper. So if it's becoming an administrative burden, then yes, I think we need to reel it in. I think, though, that recognizing people coming to us and asking to be recognized by the city of Villa Park for things that they've done that are worthy, I think we should actually be honored that they care enough about us that they would like to have a proclamation from the city to include in their memory books or whatnot. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I've actually never felt that we've been issuing them inappropriately. Even when we had a lot of them, I thought, you know what, Council Member Mills wants to honor these Girl Scouts. I don't have no skin off my nose. It's a piece of paper.
Well, it was
It's a piece of
equivalent to an
paper.
Eagle Scout, the Gold Awards.
Pardon?
It was the Gold Awards.
Well, okay. Well, I just, I don't know. There will be cities that will be asking when we celebrated our 50th anniversary. We requested proclamations from cities all over the county, all over the state even. We're sending us proclamations, celebrating our 50th anniversary with us. There'll be other cities that'll be celebrating 50th anniversaries, and we'll do that. I know that we had a principal over here at Orange Lutheran High School that just won a national award, was recognized, and many residents send their children there, and one of the residents let me know about that, and I requested that we honor this principal because she has a close connection. We have a close connection with Orange Lutheran High School. Their kids practice over here at our pool deck and whatnot. So I guess we should probably have some kind of policy is what we should be doing. We should be setting policy.
I think you're right. I mean, if we're going to do it as we should bring it up here and approve it.
I kind of,
Instead of just having it done as an administrative fiat,
You said you signed a proclamation the other day.
I signed one.
I mean, we don't know. I don't know who you signed.
I signed it. I signed it for an
we should know
Eagle.
who that person is.
I agree. I signed it for an Eagle, and as I did it, we'd already told them we were sent it, and I had some reservation about it. Not that there would be a problem getting a proclamation for an Eagle. I can't imagine we wouldn't issue it, and I did. But I really felt that it was questionably appropriate because there is no policy, and it's a proclamation of the city of Villa Park. And who has the authority to issue a proclamation from the City Council of Villa Park? Me? You? I mean, the council? At least we need to have an understanding as to what it takes to get a proclamation.
Okay, perhaps, I think that's fine. I think we should set some kind of policy. I mean, individual council members should be able to request a proclamation to honor someone that we've run across during the course of our time out in public service. What I've done, and maybe it isn't adequate enough, is I will send a letter requesting it to the city manager, whomever that happens to be at the time. Perhaps CCing the mayor? I don't think that anything inappropriate has ever been issued, to my knowledge, from anyone.
I think if we all vote on it, it makes it even more official. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but
right,
then you're
Rick?
really holding things up. Or do you really want to sit here and go through, well, at the end of the school year is when it gets ugliest.
Well, if you're giving a proclamation, I mean, if you're just sticking it in a brown manila envelope and mailing to these people, it's not proper. If we feel that they deserve a proclamation, then they should come here.
Needs to be presented.
And it should be presented.
Yeah.
And then the council then knows who we gave it to. Now, the proclamation, every council member signed the Girl Scouts.
Right.
We did not, the mayor only signed yours? Is that because the form changed?
No.
Or just, there's no standard form, okay.
We're flexible.
It just seems to me what I have policy. I'll make,
like
I'll make a
presenting it to the
suggestion, because
people,
maybe
if
I
that's the
thought about it
case.
more.
Yeah.
I have 3 suggestions.
Okay.
All right? 1, 3 council members. 2, 3 council members or the mayor. 3, the council.
Must approve whether or not we're issuing a proclamation.
Yeah, it doesn't, not have to be a big formal matter, but I'm just thinking if you do, that kind of gives it, at least it kind of gives it the sense of the council, but those are just some options.
It's just,
You could take
I
it on a
think that we
clear
need to
vote. I don't
present it
care.
to them and
There'll be
bring,
some policy.
I think any member of council should be able to request it, and I think under certain circumstances, it's appropriate to make them come here to receive it. However, the Eagle Scouts actually prefer to get theirs at their courts of honor and not here.
but then how do we tell our citizens that our city's honoring these people?
Well, that's another point.
Yeah,
That
and so
hasn't
that,
really been
I'm
done.
kind of bringing it back to us honoring them.
Yeah, I think the little, if it could be a brief formality, I think we don't want to get too burdensome. I think you're right
I'm
about
not
that.
trying to not make a big deal out of it,
Make
but
a
I'm
deal.
also trying to say it is a proclamation from the city, and if everybody just shells them out like popcorn, you know,
Yeah.
it's questionable. And you may even have something where somebody doesn't think it's appropriate. I give you an example. You know, if we, well, I probably should say this. It's kind of a where do we draw the line issue, and it just seemed like if it's going to be a city council proclamation, it just seems like there ought to be something more to it than just anybody just kicks them out. But if the council wants to do that, you know, I'm not gonna be the stick in the mud that stops
I have
it.
a question of staff. How do other cities do it? How do other cities do it?
There's no rhyme or reason. It's all over the board. Some cities, the mayor just has complete authority to sign proclamations, and they approve she approves the ones she wants to, and you know,
Rejects them?
denies the others.
Really?
I've seen them on consent calendar. I've seen them on. We were just discussing it at the beginning of the meetings, where I know when it's Fire Prevention Week, you know, we'll present a proclamation to OCFA. They come up, give a speech, hi bye, we snap a picture. We can do something like that and add it to our presentations, announcements, introductions. We can give the mayor authority to sign at their discretion, or we can put them on the consent calendar and adopt every proclamation via that way.
Some cities some cities have sort of like, it's all a proclamation, but sort of like levels of proclamation. Like sometimes they're presented at the beginning of a meeting, and other times I've had a proclamation like randomly mailed to me, like without knowing about it. It just showed up one day. Like, so, I mean, you could do that, or alternative, and for certain proclamations that you deem to be sort of extra special, you could do a presentation, and you could lay that out in a policy so that the mayor isn't authorized to sign sort of like the silver proclamations, and the gold proclamations will be presented at council. Those sorts of things are options as well.
That's a good idea. Well, then I think we probably should just direct staff to develop a policy, and I would like to ensure that our policy prohibits us from throwing a proclamation in the mail at somebody. I don't like that.
Okay.
Definitely don't like
You
that.
wanna just have staff, come back with a suggestion and
Yes,
we'll look at it later?
I think so. I think it's
Sure.
appropriate to set policy.
do that.
It's
Yeah.
never
Okay.
been, it's
All right,
never
Jared,
really
why don't-
been explored before.
Why don't we just do that? There's nothing here to move. Is there a pretty good consensus on
Okay.
that? Yeah, it looks like everybody's in unanimity on that one. Okay, so on to the next matter. Let's see here. Oh, this is my item. Regarding OCFA labor negotiations. This is really a sense of the council item for me. I've sort of done this before, but, you know, we're in labor negotiations there. I obviously can't, I can't come out here and spew out closed session detail. I'm not gonna get into any of that. I just wanted to remind the council, let the council know that I do have a somewhat hardline philosophy on the defined benefit plan aspects of this, and I will just tell council, and depending upon, various views or the numbers game, maybe it could be considered as harsh or extreme. And since I'm representing the city there, although I'm appointed to it, since I'm still designated by the city here, I'm gonna take a flavor over there. I shouldn't even say that. I should say I'd like to let the city know what I'm doing just to get a sense for my own personal evaluation. But I really have trouble with defined benefit plans. They're just blank checks. I would never get involved in one. My business wouldn't. I haven't found anybody that would. And you know, doing that on behalf of the taxpayer, to me, frankly, it's a breach of fiduciary duty in my opinion. So if anyone wants to infuse any or make any comments in regard to that, perhaps to soften that stance, you know, now is a chance. But it's going to be very difficult for me to be approving anything that has that provision in it. And I'm a little bit hard-nosed. I'll listen to the arguments and I'll make a call, but I just want to see if council has any thoughts from this community, representative of this community on that issue, because I just think it's wholly inappropriate. I'm having a very difficult time approving anything one of those provisions in it. I think it's just going to be financially fatal for the agency down the road.
Well, it's already moving in that direction, right?
Say again?
It's already moving in that direction very, very rapidly from what I've read.
Oh.
So, I mean, I agree with you, so I have nothing more to say. I think.
Did you get an answer back on the question you had posed?
Whether we could have it closed?
No, what is it called, Petra or Pepra? Remember you had asked that question?
Only applies to
Yeah, I don't really have a good answer, and I don't know whether that would
You
be.
didn't say no to that.
And I
or
don't.
Ever.
There's serious questions. I think the question was whether the fire, whether the unions and the collective bargaining unit on the other side even had authority
Right.
to bargain away the defined benefit plan, and I don't know that I've had an answer. But I don't know that they do. It's a very difficult position, and if taken to the extreme, could push you. I would think could push you maybe toward a bankruptcy proceeding on behalf of the entity to get rid of those.
Well, a lot of it's set in law, isn't it? A lot of it's just set in law.
I mean, I'm not even.
Conflicting laws
it's
too.
been the unions have pushed those plans for so long at the state level that the legislation's so stiff. I'm not even sure the union has the collective bargaining right unit even has the right to do that anymore. I'm not sure that's 100% clear, but be that as it may, if it doesn't, then it obviously would to do anything, you'd have to push it toward a bankruptcy proceeding. But I'm just really troubled by that, and I just felt I probably ought to at least get a little sense of the council. I mean, I'm going to do what I'm going to do down there, but it would.
Wasn't it pretty sad that all this has happened in 20 years, basically? It didn't take long.
It didn't.
It's frustrating because
at
Oh,
this
we
rate,
will.
it'll
very
fail.
good people.
I
They're
mean,
good
no
people
doubt.
down there, but
Exactly.
it gets into that structure and it just gets very difficult. The legislation's tight and makes it very difficult to proceed. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with the council. I can't get any of the details, obviously, of the negotiations, but okay. Well, that's all I had on that one. So now we're on to the council appointments. My inclination on this, I've reviewed everybody's requests, and I think my inclination is to just leave the appointments the way they are, except with regard to the foundation, and on that one, we'll put Greg on the foundation board in lieu of Deanna. But other than that, it sounds like everybody's relatively happy where they are, and no big changes requested. So unless somebody's got something to add or unhappy with that, we'll leave it that way.
Okay. Do we have to make a motion on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I guess.
Anybody want to
I'll
make the motion?
I'll make it.
I'll second.
Thought I was.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Abstain.
Okay.
Well, with that, unless anybody's got something else, are we ready to adjourn, or am I missing something, Jared? Have we got any staff comments, or?
This was the gray area you and I discussed. We can discuss committee, meeting reports, or we can adjourn. It's up to the pleasure of the council.
Unless somebody's, I'm
I've
inclined
got
to
two
just.
things. First of all three of, I think we paid to go to the Orange County Forum, so all three of us are required by law to report that we attended and say something, aren't we?
Yes, I must not have processed that reimbursement yet.
Pardon?
Yes, if the city has paid for city council to attend a meeting, then you are required by law to report on that matter, either in writing or verbal.
We don't
we
have
must
our
not have processed that
expense
payment
report's
yet.
not in here yet, that's
We
why.
could go ahead
We
and
can wait,
report now.
we can wait and do it next month?
time.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. Can I report on just one thing, please? And that's January 8th. I went to the OUSD bond presentation at Villa Park High School. I think it was the third of a series of public input nights that they've been having at each of the high schools. They've got a different, I don't know what
Architectural firm.
Pardon?
Yeah, they're all different
architectural firms at each ones, and they're presenting. And I just think that from our perspective, we need to start paying attention right now. They fully intend to put a bond on the November ballot, and the numbers that they were tossing out were $60 for every $100,000 assessed value of your home. I think the law now says it can't go beyond 25 years. So that would be attached to your property taxes for 25 years, and they made it perfectly clear as they were presenting it that that would be one of 3 bond measures in order to actually accomplish all the work that they would like to do. So I really think it's important to report on that and for us to keep our eye on what's happening there. I've been keeping Jared up to date with what is happening at the Orange Planning Commission with regard to the Rio Santiago project. They held their second hearing on that last night. The first one, they did not even have quorum. The second one was a packed room. They cut off public hearing at 11, so they went from 7 to 11 with nothing but public hearing. And then their next one was Monday. Was just yesterday, and that one also went until 11. No decisions were made at all, and they've set another public hearing for Wednesday, February 19th at 7 p.m. And I think it's really they're gonna start drilling down into the developer. I'm wondering if it might not be appropriate for our mayor to send a letter to them, but we need to stay on top of this one. And when it comes before the Orange City Council, it would be a very good time for our mayor. And I've tried to communicate that through our city manager, that this really is a job for the mayor to speak on behalf of the council. Anyway, those are things I think we need to talk about.
Plus, going back to the school again, as you noted, Deborah, there is 3 bonds they intend to have over the next several years, and also it won't get everything done either. They don't guarantee one thing. They may be $70 million facelift over here. That may be it at the end. They don't know. So it's as Deborah cautioned, we need to keep our eye on the ball here, because it's going to snowball, and then it's going to be a lot of money for nothing in the end. And I think that's that's going to be a continuation, because they can have even more bonds than 3. So there's attachments because they're limited by law on how much they can raise each time. So they're talking about a lot of plans, but what actually gets done is a lot less. And it doesn't have to be. It can be done very, very reasonably. But a lot of folks are for this because they think it's going to increase their property values a lot. And I think that's a non-starter in its own right, because if it doesn't really have any meat to it, what's the point? But I am for, some portion of this, obviously, if it's done wisely. And I think it's also kind of sad that the El Modena one is the one that has the Fred Kelly Stadium. That's supporting that one specifically. So depends on your perspective here, what's going to go on. How much it can really increase values, and that seems to be a big buzzword to a lot of people. They're really pushing that a lot in their arguments, and I just don't know how much that really counts. I really don't. So if anybody has any idea about that, I'd like to hear that too.
Well, as I've talked with realtors about this, you know, people can afford to buy the house, but sometimes they can't afford to buy the property or pay the property taxes. I mean, that's attached to it. The thing that really concerned me, and it was a question that I asked about whether or not they have a capital improvement fund where they put some money away each month. No, we do that for maintenance. I say, you don't put any money away for these capital improvement projects. No.
No.
I said, but you could. Yes. So even if they'd just been putting $10 million away a year and been building up, where they could show, look, we're trying to do this, but they just expect, you know, they get all our property taxes already. They get taxes like crazy anyway, and they expect us to foot the bill for the whole thing. And they've done nothing on their side. We put money away when we want to do a project. You know, we build it up. And they're not doing that, and I just consider that to be irresponsible, fiscally irresponsible. That bothers me.
Well, plus, but the good thing, one of the good items about the bond proposal that they're purporting now is that there will be a 3% maintenance portion, which they never had before. So they're going to be required to put away so much each year, which is an improvement. I don't think it's enough, because I know maintenance usually costs between 6 and 8% per year, typically. So, but it's a step in the right direction. So there are positives about it, or at least in the right direction. And we're not required to talk about our meeting we went to last week.
The Orange County Forum, we are actually required, but I guess we don't have to do
We
it
don't have
until
to,
it
or can we go ahead and do it?
You can go ahead and do it.
You can do it now.
Well, basically, we talked a lot with Mr. Carver, the chairman of Southern California Edison, talked about how they make money, which is by distribution, not by generation. Although we'll be saddled with the cost for the San Onofre songs, both the building of it, which we're still paying for, and also the delineation of it off the face of the coast.
Well, they are going to pass that on to
Oh
the
yeah, well, of course they
customers.
have to, and because they're public works, they're not going to have to do that. But basically, he gave a very nice speech about all that. They do encourage solar. A lot of people think they're not encouraging it. That's not true. They are, because this also allows them to, but they're dealing with it from the ends of the dendrites of the entire grid, where people are able to put in a little bit so it doesn't tax the rest of the system. So there's some easement at the end of everyone's house, or where they plug in. So if that's the case, that is a very, very good thing. So they're encouraging it, and they don't have to improve their infrastructure as well. That's not said, but that's what the implication was, and that was basically his speech. So
He did also indicate, though, when it came to the solar, that in the future they will probably have a fee that will be attached to everybody's bill, whether or not you're solar or not, so that
it's like a license fee.
like a
that you
license fee
attach.
that you can actually use the grid. So that's something that will be coming in the future. He
Yes.
didn't actually put a time frame in there, but I doubt it's going to be $20.
But it will
probably
be a tax.
It's going to be a tax that will be attached
Supreme
to your
Court
bill.
said
if you have
any
it.
fee-
or
If-
non-solar?
If you have solar, that it'll be a basic fee because you might need to use the grid.
That's inevitable.
Yeah.
And
That
so
is
he-
absolutely inevitable.
Yep, so
They
he,
can talk solar
he
all
did
they
it.
Because of
want.
nighttime
Because
transmission.
they're,
you're
they're,
camping all
they're
the
all
time.
about the
Unless you're
infrastructure.
camping all
That's
the time.
That's what they're all about. Those were good reports. The only other thing I would add is that he said that fracking has brought the U.S. back to being a leading energy producer in the world.
That's right.
And that it has geopolitical ramifications, and I thought that was very encouraging. And I would note that the Orange County forums that I have attended in the past had probably 4 times that number of people in attendance. And I was surprised that an issue of this importance, you know, the electricity outlook by someone of his stature was so poorly attended. But you guys gave great reports on it. Thank you.
That it? Jared, we don't have anything staff needs to say?
No, sir. A couple quick items. Our Crown Vic finally sold at auction. Take a guess.
It's $50.
No.
5,000.
No way.
Are you kidding?
Are you kidding me?
Did they know it didn't take real gas?
$5,000. $5,000 for it. That
Oh
was
my God.
Say $200.
Did you get the check?
We received the check, cashed it. But Bethany, Bethany was processing it and said, "Hey, we got our check. How much was it?" $46.50. I was like, $46. She's like, "No, $4,600."
Wow.
Crazy for the Crown Vic.
That's
and our new car should be here tomorrow. The F-150 that we ordered, and the bathrooms, all the fixtures came in with that. So we'll start on that relatively soon here.
great.
Okay.
With that, that's all we have.
With that, we're adjourned.
Jared, did you get a picture of us?